We've been saying all season long that...
Start over.
Start over. We've been saying all season long that we've been looking forward to the ending. Not that we were in a hurry to get there, but because we know it's a strong ending. We know that a strong ending was handed to the showrunners, and that's something nice to look forward to. It's a nice reassurance, and given how bad a lot of endings are throughout the world of television, we just don't get a lot of quality endings in general. And as the season went on, we gained confidence in their ability to pull it off pretty quickly, to be honest, given how well the early episodes went. And, overall, The Hedge Knight is a story with powerful themes that we were introduced to in A Song of Ice and Fire somewhat, and they're intrinsically tied to a whole new set of characters. I mean, new as opposed to A Song of Ice and Fire, some of whom we're somewhat familiar with, given their families and other aspects of Westeros that are familiar as well. Now, those themes culminate here in the final episode, just as they do in the final pages of the novel. The choices made here are the anchor for the rest of Dunk and Egg's lives. This is how it's all established. Here we get the groundwork for future conflict, future adventures, future fun. We know what Dunk's values are, and that living up to those values comes at great personal cost, but also with a deep personal satisfaction and the admiration of many, like Egg and us. Dunk was told by Rafe to go out and find a family, and Dunk and Egg chose each other. Dunk never knew his, and Egg is better off not knowing his birth family. It's a moving episode with some new scenes featuring a variety of tones, the resolution of some themes, as well as most of the dialogue being carried over from the novella as per usual. We dunk our eggs into all that and more on this episode of History of Westeros podcast. Hello and welcome back, everybody. It's not our final episode of Dunk and Egg season. We certainly have at least a wrap-up episode next week at the usual time, but we will be pretty soon shifting back to our Sunday time slot at 3 o'clock. And we will still have our game streams at 6 on Fridays. Sean, how's it going? You got a end-of-season beverage, some sort of culmination drink?
Nothing too special. It's the Green Machine with the Magic Mine and Mountain Dew. It's a pretty good mix. I've experimented a lot, and I'm kind of settling on this. So
you could call that a green apple Fosway. There's probably not enough apple in it, but hey.
There you go. I do think the Green Machine has a lot of apple juice in it.
Oh, right on. Cool. Well, if y'all have questions...
sorry, real quick.
Yeah,
I just want to say, I'm excited to finally on this episode talk about how they really did confirm that Dunk was knighted after all.
Yeah, it was very clearly done there, wasn't it? Yes, there's no doubt whatsoever.
They gave us the exact moment there. It must have happened.
If you all have questions for us or things you want us to discuss, let us know here live on the episode, or send us an email at westeroshistory@gmail.com, or just hit us up on one of our socials. We're on pretty much every social media platform that there is. Most of them. All the big ones for the most part. At the end of this episode, we'll mention some others that relate to this one, since, you might want to move into other territory now at the end of the season. We have a fun poll for you all. Now, the ending was changed slightly. We're going to discuss this in more detail, but for now, I think you all understand the ramifications of the change, which is that, well, how are they going to handle Egg having Maekar's signet ring, aka the boot, the thing that proves his identity? To be clear, he doesn't use that until the Mystery Night. He mentions it in the Sworn Sword, but he doesn't actually use it. So our question is, are they going to resolve that by having Egg steal Maekar's signet ring? There's other ways they could resolve it, but this would be a nice simple one. So yes or no, did Egg steal Maekar's signet ring? That's the poll. We'll reveal what you all think percentage-wise at the end. I'm kind of a toss-up personally, but we'll...
I can see an argument either way for how it would be difficult for him to steal it, but I also see a really easy way for him to get it before book 3, so yeah. I'm not too worried about this at all.
Yeah, it's not a hard... It doesn't have a huge butterfly effect. There's no way, yeah. So either way, there should be a clever explanation or a simple one. We almost did a poll about what would Raymond name his kid. Raymond and Rowan there. Duncan... or not Duncan would have been the choices. I guess it could have been Dunk, or that's the same name though. Anyway, or is
what kind of name is Dunk? Come on.
Is it short for Duncan? Yeah, yes, short for yes. He can't be named Dunk because then people will say that's ridiculous, like Lionel did. Corn Emperor sends a super chat, says, "Love y'all. Can't believe this is the last one. I know, right? But We will be back, of course, with more TV show coverage later this year. And of course, our book coverage. And Dunk and Egg is only going to be a year out, right? We get this every year for, well, who knows how long, but it's a bright future. They didn't ride off into the sunset forever. They did ride off into the sunset, but not forever. So let's start, as we usually do, with our favorite performance and favorite scene. We will say, hey, Sean, start us off here. Who did you pick as your favorite? Now, y'all, just before Sean answers, I want to point out, of course, in our wrap-up episode, we're going to do some season-long questions like this. If you have questions that you want us to tackle in regards to that kind of thing, let us know. Now, Sean, take it away. Who do you think was your favorite performance of episode 6?
You know, I'll say that I didn't really feel like any one person super stood out. There was several different good ones, but sometimes one character, one performance really nails it or gets more airtime or whatever. I think there's a few that maybe could have taken it here, but I'm going to give it to Peter Cleffy to playing Dunk specifically. A couple reasons I'll say. One is he did a good job of kind of taking second seat to a lot of the other people being featured here. And two, he did a good job of emoting with all that makeup on his face. They in the behind the scenes, they kind of described the process of getting the bruising and swelling on his face. And that I feel like that's got to be just uncomfortable on top of everything. It's hard to know what his face looks like and to feel and still emote properly. So I want to give some credit to that.
I'd like to ask him which was more difficult, acting with this makeup, all this bruise makeup, or with that helmet.
Yeah.
That's probably a tough call. Maybe not for him, but I would have a tough call guessing anyway. What about you, Shay? Who was your favorite performance of The Morrow?
I'm going to go with Dexter Solancel as Egg. I thought he, again, got quite a range of emotions to show, and I found it very heartbreaking with really no dialogue in that whole sequence with him going to Arian's room with the knife and the resonance with childhood trauma and abuse and breaking this cycle. And it was very moving, and I thought he acted it very, very well. Loved it. So I'm going to give it to him. I'm also just partial to Lionel and Raymond. Give them a shout out. They're always just delightful. They love Dunk. We love Dunk. I like that they care about Dunk a bit. We'll talk about that more later, but I'm going to give it to the real emotional performance here.
And I'm going to do a similar one. I'm going to go with Sam Spruill as Maekar. He was very emotional. I think this is partly like just my expectations, because I was looking forward to the scene all season long before the season was announced. I was just looking forward to this part, and they did it really, really well. Sam Spruill's range of emotion just within one scene, 2 different scenes, was really well done. The tension in his forehead and in his eyes, just really, really well done. I was super happy with it. It really had high expectations for it, and they were met. Also, I want to shout out Danny Webb. He's in every episode, but in small amounts. As a whole, I think we'll spend some time talking about him more, perhaps in our wrap up. But just looking at his performance as a whole, definitely got to give the guy a shout out. He was really strong in general, and this last episode had some particularly good moments. Well, one in particular, but also some other good moments in general. So, favorite scene? How about you, Sean? I see you've got a related moment here.
I want to give a general shout out to the lingering injuries of the combatants in the Trial of 7. I really appreciated it. They all groaned and grimaced when they stood up and had limps and injuries and damage on their face and hands and everything. I just really appreciate that they did that. But my favorite scene was easy, hands down. Like, I was surprised at how much it moved me in that little moment Shay's got on the screen when Dunk and Egg and Arlen were riding off. It was like, I don't even know how to describe it. When they kind of was presented to us, you see the 2 horses and Dunk and Egg, and you start to realize there's a 3rd horse, and like, oh, that's weird. I thought he gave Sweetfoot. Wait, someone's on it. Who? Oh, it's Arlen. And all that happened in like 1 second in my brain, and then suddenly I just felt my chest lock up and my eyes start to water, and a little whimper came out. And I'm like, what's happening to me? Like, I could not believe how emotional and how suddenly emotional I became in that moment. it's an example of something. It's like, I think this a lot of times when I think about like especially thinking about your favorite episode of a TV show, your favorite season. Sometimes it's not fair because, the season finale of the third season, it's built on everything that happened before and on its own and how good it is. It's seen on its own, maybe isn't even noteworthy, but in the context of everything else, it just really hit me emotionally. I was moved. I mean, I think I have to pick it as my best scene of the whole season. Maybe of all the Game of Thrones material out there, I was never moved to tears like that before.
Wow, very good. All right, Sean.
You weren't moved to tears during Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, Sean?
Not that I can think of. I mean, I got emotional a few times, but
I guess I just cry a lot.
Tears dripped down my face and the chest locked up, and like I had to get my breath back, and like it was surprising, how much it hit me.
I'm more surprised to learn that it's the only one, but regardless, I loved it too. It was also beautifully filmed, like the way that it had this dreamy cast to it, the panning over the land, and I thought it was filmed very well.
A little Field of Dreamsy almost.
Yeah.
Like he's literally going off into a field.
I don't want to ramble about it too much, but I tell you, I am more often moved to tears at moments of triumph. Yeah, I feel that's usually when I kind of well up and get emotional is when someone wins in the end or does the tough thing. For example, and when Dunk says justice for Glendon Ball, that like, I don't know, it wasn't as emotional as this, but that might be among the most emotional moments I've had when someone, makes the stand and achieves the good thing or whatever else. That tends to make me well up. Sometimes even upset at me because sometimes it's like a cheesy ending to a movie. Like, doggone it, why am I getting emotional over this?
That's funny. Yeah, when you get to hear that, you'll have to compare these two scenes when that line is said out loud on screen. You'll have to come back and make this comparison. O'Shea, what about you? Pick your favorite.
My favorite is a scene that also stirred great emotion in me, but a different sort of emotion. Laughter. I felt that the opening shot of this episode was one of my favorite moments in any of the shows ever. I thought it was incredibly great to just kind of shift the tone and have a kind of a palate cleanser after how heavy the end of episode 5 was. It starts with this kind of jazzy music and a really long shot of Lionel and his witch maester looking down, right? He's a kind of a creepy guy, but like it stays on them for a minute while this music plays. And then he holds out the wine. It cuts to Dunk, and it goes to the title credits. That's it. It's 2 shots. And I found it to be so effective, and it made me laugh so much, and I think it's what the audience really needed to just kind of shift the tone again. And just brilliant music choices all around, from the kind of anachronistic sounding ones, like the ending song, of course, 16 Tons, which was just really well done, but all the music, the original music, it really set this episode apart. The whole season, I think, was outstanding. And I think that's something we were concerned about. Concerned is maybe an extreme word, but knowing it's not Ramin Djawadi, it is a consideration, is what will the music be? Will it hold up to that standard? And it does for me. I love the music in this show.
Yeah, Dan Romer killed it. I agree. It's really, really good. And I agree. We were like, we knew it's like you said, it wasn't like we were worried, but it's like, well, you're removing someone who's amazing. So like, it's big shoes to fill. In general, I thought this episode had the most powerful music, just a huge variety of tones and emotions, which fit perfectly because this episode had that too. And there's a lot of back and forth. It shifts from sad to triumphant to happy to uncertain to just as so many characters had a variety of emotions, the music reflected that. I think my favorite was Egg's little bit of pedantry at the end, arguing over the number of kingdoms. That was just so funny and just the kind of thing that us in the fandom that love the details and like getting things right, the nerdy details. Technically correct. He is the best kind of correct right there. And I love how just flummoxed Dunk was. Like, 7. He's so he's just like, can't believe it. He's like, what? No. He just cannot accept it, but he just counted them. Like, you can't deny that was 9 kingdoms he just named, and they're all real kingdoms, and they're all part of what? It's like, yeah, what do I do? How do I can't argue against that, but everyone really is wrong. Like, whoa. But also shouting out what Ashea named as the centerpiece of Egg's performance, I would note that scene as one I wanted to highlight as well. That was just really, really well done. Not just because of how well acted it was, the music added a huge amount to this scene as well. Just while he's looking at the mirror and while he's approaching Arianne. And then when Maekar comes in. Yeah, just all of it. Yeah, it's really, really good. The soundtrack is out now as, I think, did you say that? If not, the soundtrack is out now, and we'll talk about it a little more during the wrap-up next week. Goldilocks plus 2 bears says, Dunk shows the ring to Rohan in the Sworn Sword. Oh, okay, I forgot. I haven't reread the Sworn Sword recently. I certainly will soon. I'm looking forward to rereading both of them again. But yeah, I guess I forgot that. Cool. So that still doesn't change too much. It gives them a little less time to resolve it, but it's still over a year before the next story begins. Or about a year. Anyway. Lionel's recruitment pitch. Let's talk about that. Lionel's recruitment pitch. Let's talk about that. It's, as Ashaya said, it's pretty funny how the scene starts. No dialogue. Kind of like several other moments in this episode is dialogue free. Just the end as well, as we just talked about. So it's bookending. And as Ashaya also said, it's very valuable to start this off with a little bit of humor because the episode has a lot of sadness. And it's you're kind of expecting it to begin with sadness because of just how the last episode ended. You would not expect some joking at the beginning, but it was done in a way that was really effective. Yeah, and of course, he's a terrible maester, begone witch. That's really funny. Ashaya noticed, and we tried to do some zooming in and analyzing here, of his chain. It's very cool. The chain isn't just a bunch of metals. They're shaped in certain ways that give away what they are, in addition to using the colors as clues. So we've got a little quick deep dive here into the maester's chain.
Yeah.
I noticed he doesn't have the hemorrhoid link.
But no, we've always been a little bit really into the Maester's chains, the links. The links, we know what a lot of the links stand for. We don't know what probably half the links could stand for. I want to pull up on the screen as reference. This is from Game of Thrones. This is what their Maester links looked like in that show. And it also has a very handily a visual of what they are associated with. You see, we get black iron for Ravenry, copper for history, iron for warcraft, silver for medicine, Valyrian steel for magic, gold for like economics, money, bronze for astronomy, right? They add steel for construction. That isn't in the books. They added that for the show. We don't know what steel is, so I thought that was kind of interesting.
We know steel is one of them.
You're muted.
We didn't know what it was for. That makes sense.
You are muted.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, adding steel for that. We know steel was one of the links. We just didn't know which one it was for. So that's a good choice, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it's a very good choice. So to go on from that, I would say that, okay, well, we see that as a comparison. Well, what do we see here? We see this is an iron. We're guessing that this is for Warcraft.
That's definitely an anvil, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. See? And then we see here, it's funny because it kind of looks like a money symbol, and I don't know that it would look like our currency symbols, but I think it looks very much like that's the yellow gold for economics to me. Hard to say what we think this one is, so if you have guesses, I'd love to hear them. We don't get a good shot at them, and I'm going to say this Maester doesn't have his silver medicine chain. That's my big joke here, is that's why he's so incompetent. Is he's got Warcraft and money, but he does not know how to heal him. Because he's wrong. He's wrong. He tells him he's mortified and going to die, and he doesn't.
He doesn't. Yeah,
he
clearly.
Doesn't. So the Maester was clearly wrong.
Silver does have a, I don't know, like an antimicrobial.
It does, yeah.
To it.
Yeah, that's why it's silver, exactly. Which I think we talk about. What is it, like in an old the Citadel episode?
We talked about it once or twice. Yeah, we even had a sponsor that put silver in their clothes to make them have less sweat and odor. Yeah. You could put silver in like water to disinfect it or to decontaminate it, for example. So Dunk gets a little upset at Lionel's disrespect towards Baelor, but Lionel is not abashed at all. He pushes back even harder. It's a bad sign for House Targaryen when even Baelor is disliked. Not that most people dislike Baelor. I think that Lionel doesn't like the Targaryens, and maybe Baelor wasn't so bad, but he alone doesn't make up for the rest of them, is maybe another way to look at it. He makes an interesting point about Baelor risking the least by far of any of them. He definitely goes too far by saying he risked nothing. He clearly risked something, or he wouldn't have ended up dead. But he does make a good point that all those other people fought for him, and they had more to lose, and they were risking more than Baelor was. Even though Baelor got maybe unlucky, he was only risking danger from half the people on the field or less, whereas the rest of them were risking it from all 7 of the, you can eliminate Daron, 6 of the others. So, and he says the gods do not favor a fraud. So he appeals to the higher authority it's a way to put a period on that argument. We discussed earlier how maybe one of the guys in Dunk 7 was out for glory, and the others all had good reasons besides that, maybe friendship or justice. Lionel might have been the exception. He might have just been there because he wanted some glory, and then Baelor goes and dies and steals all the attention. So, I don't know, maybe a little of that going on here or there. What did y'all think about his speech or his take on Baelor? I was a little surprised. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I think he makes interesting points, but still he's being a little unfair. And you can see Dunk doesn't quite buy it either. You know what I mean? Dunk's like, look, I get what you're saying, but Baelor just died for me. You know, like maybe in theory he's risking less, but that doesn't mean he's risking nothing. And also he's risking less in that maybe you could, reasonably argue he's facing less danger. But there's other things he's risking there, like his reputation, his family, and I just think that it is interesting. I'm saying the same thing over again, but Lionel brings up things that you might not have thought of. But when you do think of them and analyze them, I think in the end that he's being a little unfair about it.
Yeah, I thought that it was also interesting. He says, only good dragon's a dead dragon, right? Which is even beyond speaking to Baelor and him being a fraud or anything like that. To Dunk in his head, he's like, well, I know and love Egg, and he's a Targaryen, and maybe he hasn't had a good record with Aerion or with Daron, but he does know and care about 2 Targaryens in Baelor's memory and in Egg now. And so I think it's just a non-starter for Dunk. Like, even if maybe it would be smart for him to go with some big lord and get taken care of and learn and all of these things, it makes sense, but he's disillusioned as it is, and then he's specifically critical of this really harsh statement, I think.
Yeah, and I think go ahead, Sean.
It's similar. It would be a similar unfairness of prejudice for Lionel to say all Targaryens are bad, as for Dunk to say all nobles are bad, right? Like, he's had some experience, he's got a new perspective on the world, and he's seen that nobles, knights, aren't necessarily as good as you would think or hope, or his worldview is coming into question. But that doesn't mean they're all bad. He thinks Lionel is at least okay, and Baelor, that there's even if there is this general belief or opinion or truth, that doesn't mean there aren't exceptions, and Lionel is not allowing for those and not allowing for them to Dunk in this moment when Dunk, it's in particular important to Dunk. It's slightly unwise even the way Lionel is presenting this. Even if he was more correct, he's still being unwise in this moment.
Yeah, it's not the best recruitment pitch. He's not reading the room, or which the room is one person. But yeah, he's also, I don't think Lionel is fully aware of just how close he is to Egg. I think that's kind of went under the radar for a lot of the combatants in the trial. I think maybe Raymond clocked it, but that might be about it. So
here's my
you're making a good point. Like, he doesn't want to immediately sign up for someone that's saying he's going to oppose the Targaryens because Egg is on that side.
Well, here's my question. When he sees Egg and when Egg goes and gets the combatants, he's not dressed in all his finery.
Right. I mean, Egg is the one who brings them. That's true.
Yeah, he brings them, but he brings them as Egg, not as Aegon. Right?
No, I think they know who he is at that point.
Okay, that was my question, is that when I rewatch it, there's not really anything that explicitly shows, like, Egg is still dressed like he's under the radar at that moment.
But he's talking the way he talks, and they would know, I think. Yeah.
He might have been able to make the peel as Aegon.
I don't think it would work if he wasn't. Yeah, they might not even listen to him.
I originally assumed that he would, but then I realized he was never seen in his Targaryen clothes in that moment. But then, like, they would have seen him around the castle.
I think a lot of them would have recognized him. Like, that's why he was trying to avoid Raymond seeing him, and Raymond is much lower rank than, say, Lionel.
Well, Lionel didn't recognize him at first because they played tug of war together, and they all cheered
that's
together.
True. Lionel already
hadn't
recognized. That's true. That's true. But other ones might have.
But that's why Egg was able to go get Lionel, right?
Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on from this particular point. So it becomes a warning, but almost like a less than a warning, in a sense. It's more of a threat, almost. I'm going to quote one of our Facebook group members here, Dickie Whiteside, who said about the Baratheons, these guys are built like human siege engines. Give them peace for too long and they start twitching. Lionel's basically sitting there post-Trial of Seven, still buzzing from the fight, patching up Dunk like a bro, and then he drops that line about a war on the horizon where they could team up and be unstoppable. But he's not predicting the future so much as manifesting it. And I agree with that. We know from the histories that there isn't a war coming anytime soon. So if he's thinking of one, then it might be him thinking of starting it. However, I will say two things about that maybe make Sir Lionel's prediction a little more accurate, or at least reasonable. One is that all throughout the episode and throughout the season, we see a lot of disappointment, if not outright hatred of the Targaryens. It manifests in a lot of different places. Right here is one. Raymond's takes. The number of people at the funeral is kind of conspicuously small. There's a lot of little hints and big hints about how the Targaryens are losing their grip. It also speaks to why Aerion was so, intent on pushing back against that. He feels that, and he hates it. So that's a big part of this. And yeah, so you can see that Lionel he's rousing a little bit. He's aiming for a fight rather than preparing for one. I thought there was a little bit of a subtle hint that Lionel's using Dunk a little bit when he stood up. He used Dunk's leg to help him stand up. It was I think it's a subtle. He's like, you're using him a little bit, aren't you? Maybe he's using him a lot.
Yeah, I think Dunk would have been unwise to actually take Lionel up on it. I think he would be wise to be under the umbrella of someone with more power, of a lord or something like that. But Lionel is capricious. He could turn on you on a dime. He could just pick up and leave, and you're just left at the castle, and you don't know when he's going to come back. I just think it's not really a good lifestyle to live underneath him as his landed knight, or just his regular knight, right?
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even if he's not necessarily using him, he was being inconsiderate when he uses injured leg to push off of to stand up. In the same way, he's been inconsiderate of talking bad about Baelor when he just died for him. Yeah,
there's a couple of maybe not red flags, but orange flags at the least.
Yeah.
They might be red flags. So there's that line. There's a war coming is also, I believe it's meant to be an Easter egg. It's a throwback to Robert Baratheon saying that same thing. And I think the second episode of Game of Thrones, he says, "There's a war coming, Ned. I don't know who it is or who will be fighting, but it's kind of a weird thing to say. I don't know who it is, who will be fighting, but yeah. But anyway, he wasn't wrong, Robert. And this is the same kind of energy, there's a war coming. Yeah, there's always kind of a war coming. So the second Blackfire Rebellion, as we all know deep in the fandom, is not really a war. It's also 3 years away. The actual next significant war is a decade away, and that's the Blackfire 3, which, interestingly enough, might be I would have a hard time guessing which season of Dunk and Egg Blackfire 3 would be, but it should be a season that's extremely important for us seeing characters that we haven't seen in a while. We're not going to see Raymond in season 2 or 3. Maybe we'll see him in season 4. That doesn't seem very likely either. But by the time of the third Blackfire Rebellion, there's a lot of characters that'll be back. Aerion will be back by then. For example, we probably won't see Aerion again until then, but that's a good chance we see him then. So I think that's kind of neat. He also makes that little joke, not joke, but Easter egg remark. Have you ever been to Tarth? Well, he will be. He will be. Oh, yes, he will be to Tarth. So,
can I make a quick note here? By
absolutely.
the way, I think there's a chance that Raymond and maybe some others can make a cameo in the third story. They wouldn't have to really change anything too much just to have him pop up. And aside from that, they could have him pop up in flashbacks too. They seem to set a strong precedent of that. And that could be a way that even when they're doing one thing, Dunk could remember when we went and visited Raymond at his new cider house or whatever.
Yeah,
ways
exactly.
That in reasonable ways.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see that when we see Aemon in Old Town, or if we see Dorne, that would be via flashback. So in that type of montage of their travels, you could see them at New Barrel with the baby, as you see a bunch of deaths.
The baby named Duncan.
Yeah, baby Duncan. But yeah, I think we will get montage flashbacks in season 2 that will cover some of these things. And yeah, maybe we'll see Raymond.
That'd be nice. We would love to see Raymond. Yeah. So Raymond is the exception, or one of the few exceptions. Baelor is another one that, yes, you brought this up, Sean. Bitter disappointment, disillusionment might be a better word for Dunk's experience of the nobility and knighthood. He's just I'm done with princes is related to that. He pushed so hard against, he was so disappointed, so disillusioned that he had that hardline stance that, of course, he loosens up on by the end because he realizes that, Egg needs him. We'll go into more detail on that later. But yeah, he still feels, Baelor is a good guy. He feels guilty about that. He has survivor's guilt. He feels bad about the Humphreys. And then Lionel just keeps going, calls Baelor's funeral the roast. Like, whoa, the roast, man, come on. That's something else. So, yeah, and that just isn't helping, right? Like, if Dunk is disappointed with the nobility and how they behave, this is not the worst thing compared to his prior experiences throughout the tournament, but this isn't helping.
Can I say real quick, I meant to mention earlier, talking about Peter Claffey's performance, and then, Shay, you talked a lot about that intro moment with the music, which I also loved, and how it was sort of a tonal shift. But kind of to what you're saying right now, is he said that Dunk is still feeling miserable, both physically and emotionally, psychologically. And that we get the scene that's kind of light with Lionel and the Maestro looking over him, but we cut to Dunk and he's got that thousand-eye stare, or
one eye
stare.
Yeah, one eye.
Thousand eye and one. Oh.
Yeah, he hands him the drink and he doesn't drink it. He just hands him his. Yeah. He doesn't even take a sip. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, Dunk is still, and through the course of the episode, is still somewhat morose, and he's trying to bring himself up to some of the other people's, I don't know, positivity, if you will, but he is still kind of lost.
I mean, he's talking about how he brings pain and suffering to everyone, right? Like, he's speaking clearly in such hyperbole, right? And so, yeah, that speaks to his state of mind. Yeah,
like he's probably thinking about Rafe as well, and yeah, just
Tansel.
Maybe Tansel too. Yeah, exactly. So it's very meaningful. You're right. He's probably in as much emotional pain as he is physical pain. That's certainly how it's suggested in the book. He thinks about how Baelor saved him twice because he also the advice about the wine. He thinks about how when he looks at his scar, he's always going to think of Baelor. The funeral. Who are those people? We had a little excitement about who these people are, and honestly, it was a little bit of a disappointment. We don't really know still, to be honest, but we do know that it's mostly, or if not entirely, not who we hoped. At first, I thought the person on the end might actually be Mataris, which is Valar's younger brother, Baelor's other son, but no, that's the Septon.
Again, shout out to young Septon, who we talked about this a lot before, so let's not get into it, but I remain charmed by their decision to give us a young Septon, a role that is normally cast as an old man. And just a cool choice.
And I think that old man next to Maekar, the silver-haired, gray-haired guy, is a Septon as well. We weren't sure about him. I guess that he might even be Prince Aerys, but I really don't think so. I
have a different guess.
I think they did away with the idea that a lot of time passed, that they corresponded back and forth significantly with the king about how he was going to be dressed. And thus they just less time passed. There wasn't more people attending. The reason I also think that guy's a Septon is he's referred to at the end, or a Septon is referred to in the final epilogue scene, and that guy's sitting there walking along with him. He's not riding, so that puts him at a lower rank.
But I mean, why not just be the Ashford Septon that they're referring to? That's the Septon.
No, he said the Septon. He's talking about their Septon. I will ask the Septon. He didn't say one of the Septons. I don't think the Ashford Septon is who they could be referring to. I think he's talking about one they were traveling with.
In the show?
Why would the Ashford Septon know where Egg is? There's no connection there.
In the show?
Yeah.
Okay. Regardless, my guess is because the woman is crying there. We think that could be Elena Targaryen, and she married into House Plum, and that man is old enough to just be silver-haired from age. I'm thinking that's her Plum husband because his necklace looks just like the Plum sigil.
Yeah, that's a great guess. I like that a lot. I would be more satisfied if that's what it is than if it's a Septon. But he's pretty richly dressed, so yeah. I mean,
but he's not dressed like the other Septon at all. He's not dressed like a Septon.
He is. That does look like a Septon to me. He's dressed like a royal Septon. He's not dressed like a day-to-day Septon. Yes, he's dressed like a Targaryen Septon would be. But that doesn't mean that's what he is. Definitely doesn't mean that's what he is.
Yeah, I do want to say I don't think he is Targaryen specifically because there's no red. The other Targaryens all have black and red, and he doesn't have the red. But he might be like from the Red Keep and be more royally dressed than the other Septon. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah.
I think there's a good chance we'll be able to find out who they meant that character to be. We had a great time discussing who might be there with Sir Manfred, because Manfred Dondarrion is sitting there. Of course, it's likely to be some other Dondarrions, but why are they both silver-haired and young? Our best guess is that, well, he liked to have redheaded sex workers during the trial. Now he's just color coordinating his sex workers, you know. It's like, I got some silver-haired ones for this funeral, you know. Yeah, so... I do like that Elena Targaryen guess quite a bit. I favor that one. I would prefer it to be that, even if I'm, you know, it's not a whole lot to go on here. I agree that the crying means something, but people just cry at funerals.
Yeah, I mean, she's the only one that's visibly crying, so I like to think that she's an old lady who grew up with him and, you know, had him on her knee as a kid and all that. That's my headcanon. I don't know that we'll find out unless the actors post on Instagram, and at that age, I don't know that they're the most likely to be posting this old lady, you know?
Yeah.
But for example, Kiera of Tyrosh has been posting a lot of BTS of her. That's this girl named Tamara. She's on Twitter, but she does have that beautiful pink hair. You also see her at the ending scene, which we'll talk about when we get there. But you see her a couple times. We do know that, you know, she has a longer history with the Targaryen dynasty than just this.
Absolutely, yeah. Sure, she's got a future that's not so great in front of her with them. So it was a great call for the camera to focus on Maekar. We got to see Egg. I like your theory, Ashea, that Egg is wearing a hat because Maekar didn't want his bald head shown off. He wanted to like cover that up. I think that's a very sensible guess for that. I don't have certainly don't have a better one.
Immediately. He's like, I need you to make a matching hat for my son. He has to serve. He has to serve.
He
okay?
must serve. Yes. Maekar may not be a great father, but he is. He loves his children despite that.
And he's a fashionista.
And he's a fashionista. He's proud of. They have to look good, right? Yeah. So that was once again. Sam Spruill did a great job here with his expression. Was a perfect mix of strength and pain and guilt, and just that combination is pretty hard to pull off. And like you said, Sean, I appreciate the injuries. You could see the injury on his face, and later he's limping. However, you know who probably didn't get injured is those two Kingsguard. They look like they were just totally fine. Now we don't get a close up of them, so we don't know for sure, but we see them in the background at the burial, and they're both walking around normally. So neither of them are limping at the very least. But there was three Kingsguard. And the third one's not there anymore, so I think he got badly hurt, and that does track with the novella. There was one of them that at least one of them who got badly hurt. So
they got some black eyes here. You can see I zoomed in on him.
Oh, really? A black eye?
They got some bruises. Look at his brow.
Very good.
Yeah,
those Kingsguard. One of them never lost his horse. That was impressive. Like you can see near the end when Dunk is dragging, there's still a Kingsguard on his horse. I was like, oh, dang. No wonder that guy's a Kingsguard.
He took Baelor's advice.
That's right. Keep your horse. Like, oh yeah, just simple as that. Just don't fall off your horse. Then there's the scene with Valar, which was very well done, I thought. Mostly straight from the book. Except for the died in my armor line, that was a really good line. I thought they extended the scene slightly, which was probably a good idea. It would have been really quick otherwise. And that was a very deep, I thought, line to add.
Can I say real quick, I do want to say I did appreciate that line and that scene. That's another example of someone who maybe could have been picked for best performance, but it was just so short. But the actor did really well in that moment with that scene. But I want to point out one of my nitpicks, maybe my only real nitpick, but also connected to another thought I had about the nature of the funeral. There might have been so few people there, at least partly because the Targaryens didn't want other people there. Think about where it was. It was up high on that plateau. It wasn't super accessible. They didn't do it in the middle of the Ashford tourney or the Ashford Castle. It was kind of removed and difficult to get to, right? Remember, Dunk looked up and saw the smoke coming and, kind of decided to go up there. Remember, this scene was kind of split between the gathering around the pyre and then Dunk showing up with Valar.
Well, Sean, can I point out what I have on the screen right now? I don't know if you remember this, but in the BTS, which we'll get way more into the BTS next week in our wrap up, but in the BTS, they do show the concept art originally has a line of people up along like the cliffside watching, and as they pared it down quite a lot. But I think they
I don't think it's the accessibility, Sean. I think it's the overwhelming theme of people don't like the Targaryens. Like, even remember that's the first thing Rhaenyra Raymond says to Dunk is, I'm surprised you went to the funeral. It's like, even though he was crying over Baylor, why would he be surprised? You know what I mean? So I think that's just like this really pervasive theme.
Well, it could be he was surprised because Dunk might not be welcome there. Like, you're the one that caused this. What are you doing here? It might have been. I mean, just think about the moment when they're all standing around mourning Baylor, and Dunk walks up. Is everyone like, "Oh, Dunk, come up. We're so glad." They'd be like, "What are you doing here?" I think would have been. Now that doesn't necessarily explain Lord Ashford or many other people. I wonder too, based on a concept art, it might have just been like a production cost decision of how to get the people and where they stand.
I seriously doubt that. We're talking small money for just a few more people in the shot. Like I really doubt that. They could also just use CGI for that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
that concept art looks like a real shot. It doesn't look like
exactly. Yeah. So I really doubt that's it.
One way or the other, my nitpick was Dunk was so beaten up and bruised and stabbed in his legs. How did he walk up that freaking mountain? How did he get up there? He would have been exhausted.
Sheer determination. That crutch. His armpit must have hurt a lot after that crutch.
Yeah. That's it. My connected little nitpick is it several times he kind of put his hand up under it to kind of support it, because it's not like a modern technology cushion crutch. It's just a piece of wood. And so he would put his hand there kind of create cushioning between the wood and his arm, but that's the hand that got a knife stabbed through it. Like, anyway.
Well, doesn't mean you can't still use it a little bit. You know, it was wrapped up really big. Yeah. Anyway, I think we shouldn't get into the assumption game of injuries. We always argue when that happens because we just don't know how bad they are. Let's move on to the delightful Raymond and Rowan. Oh, you have another comment, Shay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about Oscar Morgan here real quick, who played Velar. He didn't get the script until the table read. And so he said in the BTS that it was quite a different tone that because he only got his stuff, which is really serious. And so then he reads it there and he only then finds out, he's like, what show am I on? Like, it was so different, which I think is a funny thing.
That is funny.
But yeah, very, very limited role, but he did a very good job. And I also really liked that he had the same kind of soft-spoken voice as his father. I thought that was a cool, whether they cast it like that or whether I don't know his normal speaking voice is my point. I don't know if he put that voice on or if he just talks like that.
They used that nice transition technique for him saying, "Be gone, Sir Duncan." You don't see him say that. It's a voiceover as Dunk is gone already. He's in the camp after the funeral, limping around there. So let's move to that scene. We get the delightful end for Raymond and Rowan. There's a few people staring at him, but not too much. It's not overwhelming, but he still feels like everyone blames him for Baylor's death, which, connects to what you were saying, Sean, about maybe he wouldn't be welcome there, which I think that's a good theory. And even Raymond, who's very nice to Dunk, he's like, this feels like everybody blames me for Baylor's death. And Raymond's like, I can't really say you're wrong, but I don't blame you for Baylor's death.
Because he thanks him for Baylor's death.
Yeah, it's true. And this is a little bit of a setup for when Makar opines on the subject later, when he's like, yeah, people are going to say that for the rest of your life. They're going to say it about me, etc. So I really like this because, sure, they not only did they develop Raymond more going into the final scene, but given that, and given the way the novella ends kind of abruptly in terms of these other characters, I appreciated them giving an ending, especially given what we said before, that we might not see Raymond for quite some time, except for the possibility of flashbacks, which I do hold out some hope for that. That sounds good. So there's a lot of drops here, a lot of Easter eggs and lines from the book. Basically, several lines he says in the book before the trial come here, or just after the trial come here. Basically, the line about, better unripe green apple than a wormy one, that's actually before the trial. Here it's after. Small change. That comment about, I think I broke one of his ribs, pretty much straight from the book as well. That's really good. He says, my father wants to start a new barreling operation. What's the name of the castle he's going to found? New Barrel. Another thing that ties into y'all's idea about the flashback is, what do they go to drink that fearsomely strong cider at the Quill and Tankard? Well, they could, make a comparison. It's like, well, we drank Raymond's cider. We can compare it to the Quill and Tankard cider. Her real name is Rowan Robinson, right? So that's cool that she's Lady Rowan in the.
Yeah. She was so good. They're like, let's just name you your character after you, which I love.
Did you guys get the vibe that he doesn't know like who she was? He doesn't know that she was a sex worker?
Okay, there's a lot of debate about this in the chat, and I want to say there's a few arguments for it. One, she's a very beautiful woman. She's been up. She's been up in the stands, like in the noble stands with Manfred most recently. But that's again when Raymond was down on the field. So he wasn't up there. We don't know that she was up on the stands at any moment prior to that. You do think that through partying and stuff that Raymond would have seen Manfred with all of these red-haired women. And you think Raymond might have noticed this beautiful woman and recognized her. It's very possible. It's also just as possible that he simply has not seen them together and he doesn't know this woman. Like, it is totally possible. You can't say it's impossible, I guess is my point.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So you can tell me either way. I don't think he knows. I think he's clueless, and Dunk sees that he's clueless and is not his place to tell him right there.
Doesn't see the harm in it, yeah.
I mean, I think it's that Rowan didn't stop Dunk's upward movement, his upward momentum in society, in the class system, right? And he can't do that to her. This is her lying about something. Her one shot, just like Dunk lied about being a knight, she's lying about having Raymond's baby, and this is how they're gonna raise their caste in life, and Dunk can't blow her spot up.
Yeah, she's like a sister in in terms of their social position, their hierarchy, yeah.
That's my read also, by the way, that even that look you had on screen a second ago, she's looking at Dunk like, I did it too, huh? Good job, right?
Yeah, and she acts like she's never met him. Remember that? That's great. She's like, pleased to meet you, Sir Dunk. And he's like,
which points to the fact that she's saying that the party line here is, I'm a lady named Rowan, and you don't know me, and I was never with Manfred, and all of these things, right? Which again says that Raymond has no idea. It's crazy, the idea that like he might interact with Manfred. I know they're not the closest, but I probably she talked to Manfred and said, hey, don't blow my spot up.
Yeah, Ixnay
right? I think so.
I can
but
also imagine
it's
Manfred doesn't remember her from any girl. She's just some other, you know what I mean?
I think he knows her well enough. He was the girl. She was the girl he brought up to the stands. I think he knows her. I don't think he's such a terrible. I don't think we have that supported that he just has no memory for women. You know?
Yeah. So I love her line. It feels like a boy, and he's like, he totally swallows. It's like, yeah, it feels like a boy. That's, women can tell that, right? He's just, sure, that makes sense. I love too that Dunk is not normally the guy you want to try to do a wink nod type thing with. He'd be like, what? You know, like, I don't get it. But no, he got this one. Yeah, because and it's like you said, Ashay, it's because of their prior conversation about social mobility and how they're they have to risk their bodies for the entertainment of others unless they get another choice, a chance like this. And it is a chance of a lifetime.
But it is controversial among a lot of people. It is Dunk lying to maybe like his best friend, one of his closest friends. He does just have to keep this lie up to him, and shows that Dunk can lie.
Yeah, that's true. So the scene ends with Makar's guards arriving, and it's not the end for Raymond, but again, I really appreciate that he gets an ending because he didn't really get one in the novella, and giving the character extra development makes the loss of an ending even bigger. So it's a slight change from the book, because in the book, he's just sitting by the elm tree and the guards come, and then Makar's with them. But otherwise, it's the same conversation. It just takes place at the castle. I kind of get that. It's like Makar's injured too, so he makes Dunk be the one to travel there. Also, they get to have a few other scenes in the castle that couldn't happen out by the elm tree.
You know something about these scenes with Makar? One, he has a book open. We were wondering, like, we can't really see what he's reading. I'm thinking it's Baelor left the book open.
Oh.
It's the pages that Baelor left open because it was just the night before, that he'd done it, right? And that it's still just been open. No one's gone in there and touched the books.
Good point.
And that's my guess on what Makar has open, is it's stuff about trial by combat that Baelor was reading. And I also want to point out how different the ambiance and the warmth is. They talk about that again in the BTS, but it really was palpable, just like the cold light. There's not a lot of warm candles glowing, and it just You feel that all the warmth has been sapped out of the castle, out of Maekar. I mean, not that he had much warmth in general, but out of this room for sure, which is where Baelor was set up.
Y'all, this is a great time to reread The Hedge Knight or to pick up The Sworn Sword or The Mystery Knight. If you haven't, go ahead and go to our website. You can get the book via Amazon or in the sidebar at the Merch Hub. There's a couple different ways to do that. And while you're at our website, you can find other ways to support the show. Yeah, let's talk about Duncan Maekar. Certainly Maekar's most powerful scene, as predicted and as it actually played out. He was humble and proud and hurt and vulnerable and bitter, but also determined. He furrowed his brow about 5 different ways. Expert brow, a masterclass in brow furrowing, or as one of our listeners pointed out, Janine Stanley it was, who called a masterclass. Yes, that's a better phrase for this. Masterclass in brow furrowing. As I said, the conversation takes place by the elm, but otherwise the dialogue in the book, is nearly identical. Except for the fact that they resolve everything in 2 conversations with some stuff in between rather than one very succinct, quick conversation. Here's what's on Dunk's mind in the novella when Maekar makes the offer for him to be a household knight and to get trained at Summerhall. Quote,
"What shall it be, Dunk?" he asked himself. "Dragonflies or dragons?" A few days ago, he would have answered at once. It was all he had ever dreamed. But now that the prospect was at hand, it frightened him.
Yeah, he's no longer interested in signing up with the nobility. And really early, he's like, what if I can, even House Targaryen, I could get a job with them, And now he's like, I don't want a job with House Targaryen. I don't want Baratheon. I don't want any of these people. So that's a big reversal, and it is reflected in both book and show here. So in the novel, he makes his pitch about taking Egg on the road. It begins in the same way. I swore to be his man, and what of it? A lot of the very similar dialogue. In both cases, Dunk just rejects outright the concept of living with the nobility. He's witnessed the corrupting influence. He was brutally disabused of what he thought before. So many people disappointed him, so many families, most of the Targaryens, even Lionel a bit, Stefan Fossaway, the Brood of Bracken, the farting guy. I mean, come on, they all laughed at him, laughing at true knighthood, laughing at justice. Like, oof. It's also a redemptive moment for Sir Arlen behind the scenes here, between the lines. Dunk had been defending Sir Arlen's memory all along, but throughout the season, he was also coming to terms with maybe he wasn't so great. But now it's a bit of a reversal. It starts to go back in the other direction of, actually, I get why Sir Arlen lived on the road. I get why he avoided the nobility. I get why he lived an uncorruptible lifestyle, or a difficult to corrupt lifestyle, because it keeps you honest. Living the way Sir Arlen lived keeps you honest in the ways that are most important in terms of nobility, nobility of the spirit, nobility of the soul, honor, justice, things like that. Dunk understands now why he shouldn't be trying to rise above the station of a hedge knight. It's where he belongs, and that's quite a thing to land on after the events of the trial. Listener Christopher Stevens points out that the offer is a place in Summerhall. Oh yeah, well, he's going to have a place in Summerhall later too. Dunk's instincts were right to avoid that place, right? For more reasons than he knew. This is also the scene where we get the title line, right? It's a pretty, I think it's word for word. Sir Arlen, every day at evenfall, he'd say, "I wonder what the morrow will bring." And he suggests the possibility that maybe the realm will need his foot. We know it's true, but of course, and if Maekar, had prophetic dreams, maybe he could agree, but of course he doesn't. He says, not bloody likely. The realm has as many hedge knights as it has hedges in both book and show. Yeah. So it's a great setup for the rest of the conversation that comes later. A great first part of it, and I was appreciated once again how much it sticks to the novel's dialogue and how well they delivered it. Sean, what are your takes on this scene?
Yeah, I thought it was good. As you pointed out, it's the other way around. Maekar comes to Dunk in the book, but for several reasons, good reasons, I think, they have it the other way around here, because it allows the more back and forth with other characters in the castle, and the
book thing, like Ashea pointed out, wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah, showing the
How's
difference,
that?
the book thing, seeing him with the book open, seeing the difference in the room.
Yeah, sorry, the
Later
book, yeah.
with the castle, like you're saying, you wouldn't have interacted with Gwyn Ashford, right? Yeah, there's a few
Egg
things.
eavesdropping and
Yeah,
going back to camp with all those things it set up, which I knew they were somehow going to have to fill this because where Baelor dies in a book, there's only like, I don't know, 10 more pages in the whole rest of the story. And like, how are they going to make a whole episode out of this? And they've been doing it throughout, giving us other little perspectives and fillers and scenes and stuff, and and doing a great job with it. So no complaints. I think it was clever writing to piece it together like this.
Right on. Continuing with this scene in the stairs moment when Egg was listening, so he knew where to go. He knew that Dunk was leaving, and he put himself in Dunk's path to confront him, but didn't make it confrontational. Dunk is like, "Were you listening? Were you spying?" He's like, "No." He says it in the most guilty voice possible.
I got to point out, by the way, that I thought that was interesting because that's the closest thing to a direct lie I can think of Egg having told. Like, maybe he can, in his mind, at least justify, like, I just happened to be there. I was going to talk to my dad. Like, I wasn't this is I'm supposed to be here. Like, I can see ways he might justify that, but I think it got similar, like when Dunk kind of allows a thing with Rowan and Raymond. Dunk doesn't tell a direct lie there. I don't think Dunk has told any direct lies, but he maybe, a lie of omission or allowing someone else to lie or, kind of a passive dishonesty or something. But I felt like a direct lie by
I don't know.
Egg.
I think Egg had told one other direct lie at least before, which was he said, Egg asked him if he knew his father. And he said, no, not really. He knows his father.
But he doesn't know him really. Not really.
If he just said not really, it wouldn't have been a direct lie. He said, no, not really. So,
I think
that's
being a no
to not really.
Yeah.
To me, the no.
I think it's also kind of like the Omen when they're like, all who know you will rejoice in your knowledge. Well, what do you mean by knowing someone?
Yeah.
I know who he is.
I guess you could say that's weasel wordy and not direct, but yeah.
I think it's weasel wordy, and I think he has an out where he says, no, I don't really know my father.
Yeah.
And so I think it's fine.
If Egg had said, no, not really, I'm just in a hallway, that would have been less of a direct lie, maybe still slightly dishonest, but he just said no. and I almost feel like Dunk, some people think that Dunk is lying about being a knight. And if that were the case, Dunk might understand this lie here. It's something that, like, you can't really prove Egg wrong, right? And it makes sense he would tell this lie, that he's scared of getting in trouble or being a disappointment. And so I think Dunk understands it, which is why he follows up with, I can't do it. Now he assumes that Egg did hear.
He already knows what it means. Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of his knighthood, the line "maybe you're not the knight I thought you were" has a double meaning there in that sense. But Egg is basically saying something that Dunk hasn't gotten yet. He's going to get it in a few scenes, in like 2 or 3 scenes. But Egg is saying, "Look, I'm the weak." In this case, yes, I'm a prince, and maybe that's why you don't get it, because I'm a royal, and it's hard for you to perceive me as weak because I'm so privileged. But honestly, in the face of my own family, I'm the weak. I'm helpless to stop the upbringing that I'm currently faced with. And this gets Dunk thinking, and that's what happens right in the scene. He gets thinking, and we transition to memory, to Sir Arlen, and one of the very saddest scenes. I grant you, Sean, the ending is possibly sadder, but this was really moving. It goes right to the opening shot, right where the season begins, and with the voiceover, "Have you heard this story before?" And then it ceases to be a voiceover because we're seeing Sir Arlen frontal. And again, shout out to Danny Webb again here. He tells the story really well. It's like it's perfect.
Careful about seeing Danny Webb frontal. Okay.
Well said. He tells the penis tree story wonderfully, and so when they leave, each boy hammers their penis to the tree. No, yikes. We know this is where he dies. That's what makes the scene so interesting. This is where he dies. We don't know if this is the moment. His actual moment of death is ambiguous. They play with it a little bit. When he looks like he's dead, then he wakes back up. A true knight always finishes his story. Dunk's already crying. He's like, wait, I shouldn't be crying. You're not actually dead. But we know he dies at some point in this, like a couple hours later, maybe in the evening, just very close to that. And the story, and he's telling the story reflects on himself. He's never going back to Pennytree. You know, he wasn't called to war, but still, he's never going back to Pennytree. He's never returning. And his squire, Roger, maybe Roger had his penny on the Pennytree. I wonder if maybe we'll get that one day. They'll go to Pennytree and Dunk will wonder which one is Roger's.
That's a good call.
Yeah. And of course, skipping ahead, the penny gets a full circle. Remember, the penny being in the hilt is a show addition, but it comes full circle because Dunk takes the penny out in one of those final scenes and puts it in the tree. And that was a really nice moment, too. So now the sword is penniless in both cannons. That lines up. And the reason I think this is part dreamscape, and I want to get your all's take on this, is the tense. He's speaking to a ghost, I think, and that's how you can tell because of the tense. He doesn't say, "Why haven't you knighted me?" He says, "Why didn't you ever knight me?" And then for further clarification, he doesn't say, "Were you afraid I'd leave you?" He doesn't say, "Are you afraid I'll leave you?" He says, "Were you afraid?" Past tense, as if it's already a decision. It's already too late. So, but it doesn't. Of course, that's not the point of the scene. The scene is it's more about Sir Arlen and Dunk carrying on his legacy, and I'm sure other things too. But yeah, that was definitely part of it. And
yeah, I think you make a very convincing case, and it's something they've done before. Because, like I said during the shot of him, of Arlen shrugging his shoulder at knighting him, that was obviously a false memory. It was a fantasy. And so I think there is a strong argument that this could be that because of the tense. I think it is possible to talk to someone and ask these questions and use the past tense and for that to be how you phrase it. I don't think that is illogical or nonsensical for him to say it with that tense, but I think it is a good clue for your interpretation. I don't think that I don't think it matters ultimately whether this is how it went down or how it didn't go down, and this is just Dunk's kind of, amalgamation of experiences he's had with Arlen, things he wished he'd asked him. What matters, is that Arlen made this impact on him, right? And so maybe we will never know the answer. I don't know that I need to know the answer. I think I like it because I like the show playing with kind of fantastical and non-reality. I like that a lot. So I would like it if you're right.
Or at least unreliable narrators, exactly how Dunk remembers this might not be completely accurate.
Yeah, and I would like to see more unreliable narration in season 2. I think there's a lot of room for that type of thing, for great comedy, in fact, right?
Yeah. And I do, even though it kind of works against the case I want to make, I do appreciate that catch, Aziz. Because, and kind of to Shea's point, if they had switched the tense, I do think it works either way. But, if they had switched it the other way, we wouldn't be confused about what he meant.
Good
or
point,
thought it was
yeah.
proof that Dunk had been knighted or anything like that. But they did choose that tense. It is noteworthy.
Yeah, I thought that it was so brilliant that they really strongly hinted that Dunk was never knighted, but gave everyone, like you, Sean, who wants to keep, arguing that he was knighted, there's enough ambiguity that you can still say that, and it's not explicit. Some people might say, "Oh, it's proof." It's not explicit, so I'm glad it's still ambiguous. I wouldn't want it to not be ambiguous at this point in the story. I think it will be unambiguous eventually in the story, going way further, but not at this point.
Right on.
Yeah, for that split moment when Arlen seemed to be dead and Dunk had asked that question, I spent that split moment thinking, what? No way. I can't believe they're like creating this canon like it's they're not. Okay.
Yeah, that was a nice little trick.
Yeah. I was stunned in awe. I was ready to be even angrier or for George to be angry, you know what I mean? Like, because I'm half joking, about all this, but the fact is that I do think this scene and all the other evidence everyone points to about Dunk not being knighted, the whole thing is that it's ambiguous. That George has gone to great lengths, and the show also, to make it clear that it is ambiguous.
Yes.
Even if there's a lot of evidence on one side, that they could have made it clear. It would have been easier to make it clear.
They could have made it a lot clearer, but
all
they
they had
didn't.
to do was end it where it was, but they added extra. There was more time and more dialogue and da-da-da. If they just didn't do that, they give you a clear answer. It was set up for a clear answer. It would have been easy to give the clear answer, but they didn't give the clear answer.
They got closer to the truth without revealing it, right? They got like they zoomed in on it, but still didn't give you the That's very well said, Sean.
Can I say two things? One, from Mick Yankee. From LAMJ in the chat, somebody noticed that color grading was different here than in other flashbacks. I did feel like it had kind of a dreamier tone to it than some of the other ones. I'd be curious to do a closer comparison. But also, I wanted to give a mention to Arlen's line, "A true knight always finishes his story." A screenshot all of us will see for so long to George R. R. Martin, unfortunately.
Yes.
I kind of rolled my eyes when that was in there because I instantly knew how often I would see that quote and that screenshot applied to A Song of Ice and Fire. But, George is hopefully a true knight.
George is not a true knight, yeah.
I wondered if that was a dig at George or if it might turn out to be that way. Or what
I think it was an accident and they didn't realize that it would be so pointed and that people would take it that way. I think it was an accident. I do.
But maybe it was George telling Ira Parker, "I'm almost done." That's my positive take.
He gave him that line. That's what you're saying. He fed him that line. No, I don't think so. I think it was an accident, and maybe an unhappy accident for me, and a happy accident for many people on social media.
Speaking of writing, as we're sitting here, I just got a text from T. Mikkel, who is one of the writers and producers of both House of the Dragon and Knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
And she was in the BTS this time.
That's right. They actually showed her for once. So we're talking about how this show is bringing in a lot of people that did not watch either of the other two shows. We've had friends that fall into that category that have watched it's their first experience with any sort of Game of Thrones TV show.
It's an easier sell because you're like, well, it's a half hour. It's more comedic, right? That's not quite as violent. They still had to get warned about some violence and horse death and stuff like that. But regardless, they were more on board.
Either.
Yeah.
Not as sexual either. It's a great point.
Yeah, so she was agreeing. She's like, yeah, we're seeing people who are just not into Thrones at all, getting into it, and that'll just keep helping bring new people in. And some of those people will also get deeper into the fandom too. So, yay, more books will sell, more readers, all that good stuff. Thanks to those of you on Patreon who have supported us all season long. We won't be slowing down, of course. We have Topics Moot 2026 coming soon, the return of book and historical influence topics, and then, come May, June, we'll already be getting into Hot D. So, it's a big year for us, a big year for you, a big year for the fandom. If you want to join us and support directly, you can go to patreon.com/History of Westeros. But just going to our website, historyofwesteros.com, provides you with a lot of ways to help. And Ashay's got a thing to mention here as well.
Yeah, I do. I'm always making different updates to our website, some of which don't always aren't actually listed on our website proper. Anyways, so one of those is a merch hub, a Song of Ice and Fire merch that we like or have or think you might like or stuff like that. Some of it's on Amazon, so we do get affiliate stuff. Some of it's not. I just like it and I want to link to official merch or stuff on Shire Postman. You know what I mean? It's not all gonna benefit us, but it's a assortment of different things. I've added some A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms merch that's out now. For example, there are now Funko Pops up for pre-order of Dunk, Egg, Lionel Baratheon, and Tansel Tootal. So if you want to pre-order those, you can find the link to them at historyofwesteros.com/merch-hub. And just another random shout out to a page that you might not find a link to, but is also kind of neat. I also have a page that's historyofwesteros.com/timeline, and it's a thing I've been working on, and it would show all a timeline of all the events, and it would embed, I'll put a preview of it here, it'll embed, and this is why it's still in the works, is because there's a lot of episodes I'd like to embed in the timeline, but it embeds our episodes, so when you see prehistory, you see when giants roamed. When I scroll down to the Rhoynar migration, you see all the Nymeria episodes, and it links to them, and so that's a really big project, but you can see it a little earlier than most people if you're listening to our little spot here.
That's right, folks. So yeah, check that out, and we will go ahead and move on here.
Can I real quick? I just want to say, I'd be scared to see Baelor's bobblehead.
God. There's like pieces would fly out the back when it's bobbling.
I would like it if they made that, actually. That would be pretty great.
So during the wrap-up episode, quick preview, things we'll talk about. Some season-long topics, things that are better discussed as a whole, things that build up, taking a step back to look at it like that. More about the trial, some more additional background details. We'll look more about Sir Arlen as a whole, kind of everything they put together throughout the season. Maybe a few corrections, things we got wrong, things we've reconsidered, maybe a few opinions that have changed. We'll talk about how well it did certain things and how well it made us care about the characters, music, themes, things like that. If you have questions or things you want us to discuss during the wrap-up episode, definitely let us know. You all are very good at making suggestions for us to talk about, so I would love to get some feedback in that regard. The reverie, the ghost scene here, whatever you want to call it, with Dunk, is revealed that he's at a funeral, or a wake, perhaps is more accurate. It's not somber. There's toasting and kids playing, and I call it a bees burial. It's actually a burial for both Beesbury and Harding, but the Harding coffin is very outshined by the Beesbury coffin, it looks like. The Beesbury coffin is really cool. The bee thing was a really nice touch, and the joke about bee magic just topped it all off. And it's another really good example of them mixing somber and sad with some humor. And to good effect, I think.
It makes a lot more sense why Ira Parker mentioned Beesbury as his favorite minor house now in the Reddit AMA, because they have a lot of neat little details he's added. There's other cool things about Beesbury beyond this, but I can see why they stood out to him a lot. Not to mention Humphrey Beesbury with his honeycombed mustache, and that the fact that he was one of the people dancing in the first episode in Lionel's tent, that he really knows how to party. I'm not surprised everyone came out to support both Humphreys, but especially Humphrey Beesbury. Rest in bees.
Rest in bees. So it's not made super clear, and you all may have slipped your mind that one scene where we see Humphrey Beesbury and Humphrey Harding have one tilt, and that's the end of the jousting until Arion gets involved. That's when the Battle of Humphrey. It's not made explicit, but that is what happened. Remember, they broke something like 10 or 11 or 14 lances against each other until one of them finally won.
We debated whether it was Beesbury or Peak, if you recall. If you're listening, that was that.
I'm totally going to change my mind. It was not Peak.
Yeah,
I really don't think
Peak,
so.
I said Beesbury.
Yeah, it's Beesbury.
I'm still shocked that neither of us noticed the yellow mustache on the dancer in episode 1 until
Seriously.
Ages later. But you know.
So Harding beat his brother-in-law Beesbury in the jousting, but Beesbury definitely won the funeral games, or at least his house did. Those are kids there. I'm wondering about those kids. I assume those are at least one of them. The one in yellow is a Beesbury child, maybe Humphrey's kid, and that would thus be Humphrey Harding's niece or nephew. Is that a girl or boy? I'm not sure. Either way, because
I think it's two little girls.
Because I think Harding's sister married Beesbury. That's their connection. It could be the other way around, but look, this seems to point to Harding to Beesbury being the one who married Harding's sister rather than the other way around.
And there's also two other kids playing, but we don't get quite as good a look at them, or we don't get words from them, because you hear the kids talk.
We do get words. We do get words from them.
We get words.
Captions.
I'm saying we get words from two kids, but not all four kids.
Oh,
I
see what you mean. Yes. And it's very telling. Even those kids are mocking the Targaryens. So that's a really big deal. It's yet again an example of anti-Targaryen. They're all happy. They're all at this funeral, but they might not have gone to the other one.
Bloodgraven was right to be spying on everyone, to be suspicious.
Yeah, you're right. So it gets a little more serious, right?
Can a skin changer go in a bee? just real, can they?
So they have the Kingsguard are actually visible in the background, the two that probably are responsible for killing Beesbury and Harding. So I guess they're coming to pay their respects, and maybe there's no hard feelings. The Kingsguard are just like, yeah, I mean, what are we going to do? It's our duty. What choice did we have? Still, it's kind of interesting. But another presence that's more important catches Dunk's eye. It's Daron yelling out for a drink, and Dunk is like, these people are dead because of you. And Darren just kind of like does the shrug, like, yeah, and, you know. And then it goes to discussion about Egg. Dunk is just disgusted and ready to walk away, but Darren brings up Egg. Clearly, Maekar or Egg, someone discussed it with him. He found out somehow that this was a thing. And Darren makes a comment about his little brother being a monster. Dunk thinks he means Egg, but of course he means Aerion. Now, this gets me. This was a subtle moment here. They could have chosen any mundane activity for Aerion to have been fond of as a child to show that he wasn't always cruel, sadistic, cold, whatever you want to call him. It could have been woodworking or art or models of Valyria, you know, like Viserys. Or he could have been into horses. He could have collected miniatures. Who knows? But they chose fishing. And that's the same thing Egg said he liked when the scene about Donald Duskendale's rich crabbing family had. He's like, how do you know that? He's like, I like fishing. Maybe that was just a thing that he said, but I really don't think they wrote it that way to create that coincidence and weren't aware of it. So I think this is like
Egghead also caught a fish when Dunk showed up at camp.
Good point. He did have a fish. You're right. In episode 1. Yeah, totally good catch. So this is an ominous hint as to Egg's future, a suggestion that he's kind of on that same path, or could be on that same path. And that's something that gets to Dunk. He's like, oh, this is what makes him finally realize that he's miscasting Egg. This is what I was saying before about he didn't realize that Egg is a victim, that Egg is the weak here, that he's a victim of his family.
Look at him here with this hat, this fit. This is Nega Egg. Nega, I don't know. But, and he is a little tyrant dictator in the making. Doesn't he look like it? How can you see him as weak? He looks powerful, as Maekar intended.
You're right, yeah, how could you? So you can see why Dunk got it wrong.
All the trappings of Targaryen power right here.
So Darren is not shy about saying, hey, look, you disrespect me, you don't like me, you're right to. That's exactly my point, man. If you leave Egg with me and Aerion and our father, what do you think's gonna happen, man? And Dunk's like, oh, good point. So he spins him on his heels. He realizes, oh, damn, I'm wrong. I'm the true knight, and the way I can protect the weak is by making Egg my squire. He's the only one that can do it, right? Because Egg has already said that he will serve no other knight, which means he's not going to be squired out elsewhere, you know? So at least in Dunk's mind. So he changes his mind.
If he was squired out elsewhere, they wouldn't take him on a road and teach him to be a true knight. They would do it in a castle with servants and conflicted loyalties and all the other stuff.
Well said. Yeah, it's a very good culmination of everything Dunk's been thinking about and realizing that, yes, but he's framed it a little bit wrong. He's kind of misunderstood Egg's situation, and that really gets him on a different path. Now, one little criticism I have here, I get why they didn't do it. The scene was perfect and succinct the way it was, but I kind of wanted them to talk about the prophecy, maybe just a line or two to resolve that. They didn't really do it in the book either. I mean, he doesn't talk to Darren again, so, you know, there's nothing like this scene in the book. So
I think that gets to be a little on the nose to like, already there's going to be a million articles and you know, what is the real tragedy at summer, you know what I mean, like that's already existing, and if it's in if it's in the finale, it's even more. And I don't mind them not bringing it up again, because it just communicates their whole arc and it's so quickly, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think it might have, you know, slowed down the scene. It was very lean the way it was. I agree. I definitely would agree with that.
It might have been nice for him to reference, I guess it was Baelor that I saw in my dream.
And then they start talking about Egg or whatever. Yeah, like they could have, if they start with that, they have to finish with the Egg thing for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the pacing continues really tightly here. We have, if we back up just a little bit, we have Maekar telling Dunk, you know, or Dunk saying no, and then Dunk meeting Egg in the hallway, and then transitioning to Dunk thinking about Sir Arlen, to transition to the funeral where he's, you know, in having this silent reverie, to seeing all the activity at the funeral, to back to Egg with the fish and a knife stuck in the fish. And there's flies buzzing around. It's pretty gross. And the knife is very conspicuous, like I said. So the music is really, really powerful. The scene of Egg looking at his hair, looking and feeling it. He's seeing himself in the mirror and he's touching it. And it's something that he's very personally fixated on as a sign of his connection to his brother and to the rest of his family as well. And he just hates it.
I don't think he's seeing himself in a mirror. I think he's seeing Arryn in a mirror. Remember he said, I cut mine off because I didn't want to look like you, brother. And now he's starting to look like his brother again. He doesn't like it.
He might as well go do to Arryn what Arryn would threaten to do to him, right? At that point.
Sneaking into his room while he's asleep, put the knife between his legs. Yeah, he had to be thinking about what Arryn used to do to him there. And as y'all pointed out earlier, this is great visual storytelling. There isn't a single word spoken until there's a knock on the door. And Maekar's like, what? And it's Dunk. And again, with amazing pacing, we're right back in it with Dunk because he's just there waiting outside with his final message. So Egg's face changes a whole bunch of different ways. Brilliant acting, as we said before. Maekar also really, really well done. And the knock on the door, as I said, is the transition.
I love how Maekar's just in the darkness and you get so lulled into not knowing what's going to happen. And then he's just there. It was actually, despite how sad and upsetting, it was a light bit of comedy. Like, I think it made me chuckle amidst being very sad about this scene and upset about it,
Yeah.
I had a thought, a question maybe. When Egg dropped the knife, that was like a decision. You know what I mean? They didn't have to have that happen. And so it made me wonder, why did they decide that? What was that representing? Was that Egg like being caught? Like, all right, I'm not going to do it now because I'm caught. Or was that maybe Egg dropping this, violent thought because now the support of his father was there?
I think it is him letting go of it for now.
Yeah. He doesn't drop it until his father touches him, I think. Until he puts his arms on his hands on him, I think. So I think that you're right. I think it's that contact alone pulls him out of the darkness maybe a little bit.
Yeah. And I really liked how he leans, like he takes a beat of them standing there, and he leans against his father.
Yeah, it's moving. Yeah,
and they both just kind of, Egg's crying, and Maekar has to be sad in this moment, knowing that he loves his sons. He loves Arryn just like he loves Egg. He loves him differently, but he does love Arryn, and he doesn't want his sons to be violent towards each other. It's really heartbreaking for him.
Which, by the way, is part of why I push back against the idea that that was a lie or not. When he said, "I don't really know my father," because it seems like at this moment it's like, you don't know this guy. I can kind of believe it, but anyway, I'm not trying to bring that back up. That was just I forgot to mention that as part of my thinking for that point. I don't know if that changes the bottom line, but
I think there's to me, the fact that Maekar would have been through so much grief throughout so much of Egg's childhood would show that I think Maekar was probably pretty closed off about a lot of things, and maybe that's why I think that Egg doesn't really know him. Maekar has gone through a lot of grief, and I doubt he really shared a lot of that with his son.
This is not standard Maekar. He hasn't been standard Maekar the entire tournament. First, he's pissed off about his sons and or worried, and now this. So we haven't seen him like normal. Good point. So while Dunk is waiting for,
can I say real quick? I do think it's interesting here, and could go back and forth on what it might mean as far as like, does Egg know him? But I don't think it would have been crazy either for it to happen or for Egg to expect to happen here. Is for Maekar to grab him and yell him and drag him out of there and slap his face. Like, what are you gonna do? Kill your brother? Who? But he didn't do any of that. He didn't have a mean, violent, angry reaction. It was a calm, supportive reaction. And I think that's interesting on many levels, whether that means Egg knows him or not, or whether he's changed from what Egg might have known. I don't know.
So while he's waiting outside to speak to Maekar, Gwyn comes up, apologizes, and takes his side. And I think this is exactly where they were standing when she first approached him. This time the doors are closed, so it looks a little different, but it's pretty satisfying. It's a bump in the opposite direction. Yet one more noble that he's not disappointed with. At least one more person of the very few who wasn't a disappointment. It's like, even though she was at first, but
she's very broken up here.
Yeah.
Like she's really been crying like really hard.
It's a good catch.
I mean, it's very traumatic. I mean, imagine being a 13-year-old girl, and not only is it your birthday, which is kind of irrelevant, but you are like the centerpiece of everything, and you're watching this terrible fight to the death, and the crown prince, who you probably thought was gallant, chivalrous, you liked him more than most, other people probably, and he's killed. I don't know. Yeah, it's gotta.
How excited would she be? Like Ashford, they're not a big house, and like all these Targaryens are coming. Yeah, she would have been like over the moon. Like all these princes are coming. Like, and then it just went so badly.
Yeah, good little actress.
It's almost like a Sansa moment, right? It cuts similar to Dunk, is kind of seeing a reality, right, of all this royal pomp and circumstance you kind of idolize, but seeing the reality of it, it's not what you thought, and it's not
good point. She probably wouldn't have expected what Aerion did either. That might have been a real shock for her. Like, I wouldn't have expected someone like that to do that,
And then she probably, after seeing what Aerion did, she probably would have been rooting against Aerion or expecting him to be killed or lose, and instead it goes the other way. The good guy is killed, and everyone's talking trash about Duncan, and you know that he's a decent guy, like she probably hears lots of gossip, and she probably does hear people talk trash about Duncan.
You're probably right. Yeah, she might have wanted to cheer like Red did for Dunk, but that's just not what a noble girl would do there. It's just not in her behavior range. It's not allowed. It's not done. It's not proper, So Makar's pretty gruff, as is often the case. He's just like impatient. Look at his face. Yeah, look at that face.
His
that
face
is like
so funny.
Spit it out, man. Face. Like, I have no time. Face right there. He's like, what do you want, man? Face.
That's his like. Every second I'm away from my two sons, they could kill each other.
So this, and it very nicely picks up exactly where the conversation in the book is divided. So they don't really miss a beat, even though there's several scenes in between the conversation as it pertains to the book. Dunk makes his pitch. Egg can come live with me on the road. Makar says, get him away from his family. And Makar, that's a bit pointed because Makar just saw what happened. He's like, well, maybe it should be good for him to be away from his family that he was just trying to kill.
But he knows he's setting Aerion away, though, right?
He already knows he's sending Aerion to Lys.
It's not going to matter if Aerion's going to be gone. He just has to keep them away from each other for a little while.
Yeah, this is the spirit from the novel. The novel sells it like this, but it's more in between the lines. Here, they're a little more straightforward with it, which generally makes sense for TV. Yes, I mean Dunk. It's not that Dunk is diplomatic about it, and but it's true that it's not just getting away from his family. Getting away from his family is a positive, but it's not just removing the bad influences. It's also achieving the good influences. It's not just one or the other. There's the good, which is living on the road, living humbly, being honorable. That's good, but it's achieving that and getting rid of the bad. There's not just, so Dunk is trying to focus on the good part rather than the part that insults his family, and that's wise. But Makar, as proud as he is going to push back in that same way.
And I think, Makar says it's his last son, and he said he's so broken up about it. But, it's dangerous to send him out on the road with Dunk. A lot of things could take your son out. He could just get sick, and they don't have the easy ability to take care of it as well. When he says he's my last son, it's not only he's his last chance to shape an honorable Targaryen, but also he's his baby. He's his littlest child, and it's dangerous. It's a dangerous world. It's a big thing. I mean, Makar sending Egg with Dunk has always been a little precarious for me, just in the sheer danger of living as a hedge knight, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And the signet ring is meant to defuse that. If anything dire happens, Egg is able to, get help, right?
It's a fallback.
His emergency, call 911 type of thing. Yeah. So he has that, but that's still, you have to hope that someone is honorable enough to listen to that. You have to hope that it's something that can be helped. It's scary. I mean, he's not even 10.
Yeah. Yeah, Makar, he's a little bit here. I'll just set you up here, Sean. There's a little bit of conflict here for Makar. Well, a lot of conflict, really. But in this particular thing I want to point to, He wants his son to be noble, chivalrous, and honorable, a good representative of House Targaryen, because that's what he grew up with. He actually had positive Targaryen influences growing up, and that's unusual, but Maekar was one of those people. His own older brother was Baelor. His father was Daeron the Good. So he had a rarer experience, and he wants to continue that chain. He doesn't want to be the guy where that line of nobility and honor stopped. Like, he's like, oh, Maekar couldn't carry that forward. He takes it personally. It's a huge failure for him to say, I can't raise a good son, so I have to pass this kid off to someone else to do it right. So it's a really hard thing to admit that I'm a failure as a father. This is the proof in the pudding that I have 3 of my sons aren't what I wanted, and now the 4th one,
Aemon is fine, okay? He's not
he
a
is
warrior,
fine.
but he's not. It doesn't seem like he is dysfunctional.
We all
as it
agree
were,
with that,
right?
but yes.
But we don't know. For all we
Maekar
know,
might still be disappointed.
it is possible that during Aemon's younger years, he was a little wild, and he, even as a maester, that he was had some drinking issues like Daeron. There might have been things that he had that were character flaws. He was a child and a teen.
He was sent to the Citadel very young, so I kind of doubt he was too wild, because he was sent there when he was like 11. But Daeron sent him.
Yeah.
So Maekar did not like it. Maekar didn't want it. So this is what he means by losing his son. I don't think he's not proud of his son, but lost him means that it was taken away from him. He was sent away to the Citadel, and he doesn't see him. So either way. But you're right. Aemon, I doubt he's disappointed with Aemon, even though he wanted a warrior son,
Yeah, depending how you define disappointed, he might be disappointed and he's not this ideal hard charging warrior, but he might be disappointed in that, but he's not disappointed in that he's a psychopath like Aerion or a drunk like Daeron, right? Yeah. I think it's interesting. A couple of things I want to say here, and it's to kind of to your point, Aziz, about the challenge of acting here, that Maekar is torn in so many ways, because it's a little hypocritical when he cuts in. He's like, oh, and his family, because he Dunk wasn't gonna say that, even though Dunk probably was thinking it. Many people were thinking it. Maekar knows people were thinking it. He's thinking it himself. He just saw his boy go with a knife to his brother. So he does know the family has these problematic elements, but he still has this pride. Like, you better not say it. Well, what are you going to challenge my he kind of knows it is an issue, but he's daring Dunk to say that. But Dunk can make points otherwise. Anyway, just a slight bit of hypocrisy from Maekar, but that I appreciate that he isn't a complete hypocrite, because he does kind of acknowledge, he's my last boy. Like, he kind of lets a little bit of his real self through the facade he feels he needs to put up. And on the other side, one difference, for better or worse, this makes in the book, from the book that Dunk goes to Maekar, is that Dunk is a lot more bold here. It's different for Maekar to come to Dunk and say, hey, what do you think about this? And Dunk to say, I don't know, maybe, but I want to do it my own way. It's a different thing for Dunk to go to Maekar and say, this is how I want to do it. It's my way or the highway. It's a little bit bolder for him to go to Maekar with this demand, if you will. A. And B, in the book, Dunk hesitates about that line where he's like, Daeron never slept in a ditch, and Aerion had some, nice beef cuts, and look how they turned out. Dunk doesn't want to say that. Maekar has to kind of pull him out. Maekar can tell that Dunk is hesitating.
Well, that's a good point. He says, say what you want. Good call. Yeah, good catch.
Yeah, where here Dunk just offers it right up. And so I don't know if that's good or bad, but an interesting difference that I think has been consistent in the show, that Dunk is a little more bold. I remember I talked earlier about his conversation with Baelor. He was a little bit more lawyerly, like he's trying to prove that he's correct. Whereas in a book, he was more resigned to having messed up,
Well said. Those are some really good takes. Maekar, he's just too proud. Ultimately, that's a big part of him, a big pervasive aspect of him. He just can't allow his son to live like a peasant. But as you say, Ashaya, there's probably some other things going on there. It's not just that. That's sort of an excuse. It does. I believe he's sincere when he says that, but I don't think it's the line. I don't think it's the thing that most bothers him. I think it's what he says a second later. He is my last son, and the whole thing about pride and raising his own son rather than handing him off to somebody else. Now, he is my last son is a show only line, pretty powerful one. I also appreciate the book version where Makar just kind of looks at him and walks off, and it does a lot of work there. But that comes with narration, so it's not actually nothing. It's narrating you saying he's walking off. So that's the difference in the mediums here, I think. I'm curious about the line. Not curious about, but it's telling in a way that doesn't take place in the book because there's no series of long flashbacks in the book, of course, but. One of the things that was a really important theme of Dunk's young life was it's not the location. It's not King's Landing. It's society. It's humans. Like no matter where we go, we're going to be, low-born peasants or something worse. And so when he hears Arryn is going to the east, maybe the free cities will make him a better man, Dunk's like, nah. No. Little chance of that, sir. But he doesn't say, he of course isn't going to say that either. That's another bit of diplomacy that he's like, well, yeah, maybe I shouldn't.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I really feel like that must have been such a jolt to Dunk in that moment to hear that, he had just thought about Rafe recently and it must have stuck with him. And yeah, I thought that was a really nice beat for them to hit. And I wonder, they're going to see that, right? They're going to travel around and see that things are similar all over the place. Like that Dunk is going to see all the kingdoms, right? He's going to see all over. And he's going to see people are messed up. They have problems. People are honorable and nice. There's a huge variety of people. There's no difference between when he's up in the north and he sees the Northerners and when he's down in Dorne, right? From Dorne to Winterfell, he sees that people are basically the same.
Yeah. I agree. That's a good point. Yeah, that's going to be a big part of his education. He learned that, and he's going to learn that it's true everywhere, and he already kind of suspects that. So it's just he's going to prove that to himself, I suppose, through experience.
And Egg's going to endeavor to make it different nationwide with the power of his hats.
So here's a question: how did Egg learn that Dunk had changed his mind? It's not hard to figure out. There's a few possibilities. I think it's kind of fun to think about briefly. He has to have figured it out, or he was told. He could have guessed. I was like, why else is Dunk coming back to talk to my father? There must be some reason. He could have been kind of hopeful about it. Makar could have been muttering about it afterwards, like that hedge night, blah, blah, blah. Like he wanted you to come along with him on the road. I put a stop to that. He could have been, hey, father, what did Sir Duncan want? And he would have told him. So, but something had to happen there. Egg either had to figure it out or overhear it again. He could have spied again, but
I have a thought, but I'll talk about it when we get to the end.
Okay, cool. So that's curious. I wonder about that. But either way, it's not hard to figure out something there that would fit. A couple questions from you all. Stannis Baratheon 3356 says, I'm really starting to wonder how good of a father Daeron was. King Daeron, that is. We know Jaehaerys says a great king, bad dad. Same with Daeron, maybe. Yeah, it's possible. We can't assume Daeron the Good was a good father. He was a good king, but there is no way that I would consider those two things to have a whole lot of overlap.
Yeah, I think you can often say that if someone's a good king, they're probably not as good of a father as they could have been because they just have to neglect a lot of things to be a good king.
Yeah, it's true. So yeah, it's absolutely possible that Daeron was not a great father. He was definitely a good man, though. I think my point still has some merit, even if Daeron wasn't a great father, because he was still someone to look up to. He's still someone who accomplished a lot, still someone who was respected. So in that sense, yeah, that works. But I could see him, being a disappointment in terms of, an actual dad. Gillsville says, why was Aemon sent away? Who decided that? Well, it was King Daeron. It was his grandfather. And he said, too many dragons are as dangerous as too few. But he also recognized the kind of person Aemon was. He recognized early on that Aemon was bookish. This wasn't random. So he's like, well, that's a solution. We got a bookish kid. We got to reduce the number of dragons. Here's an easy call. At least from Daeron's perspective, maybe it seemed easy, but Makar was against it. Let's be very clear. Makar argued to get with his father about that. He did not want it to happen.
Yes, even more reason for him to go. He's my last son. He's already had one taken from him forcibly that he did not want to give up.
Yeah. Anthony Vasquez 7050 says, interesting that Makar is grieving the loss of his brother, accidentally killing him, and Aegon is contemplating killing his brother intentionally. Ooh, good catch there. Yeah, that's a strong, potent parallel there, or reverse parallel, alternate, whatever, inversion, perhaps you call it. Good catch there, Anthony Vasquez. A sweet footnote we got. That's right, sweet footnote. Dunk says, I don't know, Chestnut, stop asking me. Because we love when he talks to his horses, and that's a good one. And then Sweetfoot comes running up. It's nicely done. Raymond continues to be the absolute best friend a person could hope for. I mean, honestly, buying someone a horse is pretty small compared to joining you in a fight to the death against the Kingsguard. But this guy did both. So, hey, that's like, wow, man.
And he did this after his money, his coffers are probably a little bit tighter than they were.
Yeah.
He's had to support more. He's not sharing a tent with Stefan. You know, he clearly has some amount of resources available to him still, but it's still a little bit more of a purchase than it would have been a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And in Dunk's perspective, a horse is the difference in his life or not, right? Like if Dunk loses his horse, like that was his fear. If he lost in a joust, like, well, that's it. I can't even be a knight now. I have to go be a criminal or something. I don't even know. Like
Good point.
A horse is such a swing, for Dunk at least, for most people in the world. Maybe not quite as much as Raymond, but like it's kind of like buying someone a car. You know what I mean? And
right.
you know, especially if you're like in a relatively destitute situation and someone just gives you a car, even if they're a millionaire, you don't think that was nothing for you. You think, wow, that just changed my life. You know?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
I will say two things here. One, do you think this is now Rowan's horse? Is she going to ride Sweetfoot?
Oh, good catch. I bet. Maybe.
And I totally thought Raymond was going to try to convince Dunk to go to his new castle, to New Barrel, and come to the Reach with him. And no, he's just supporting him going to live with Lionel, which I thought was a funny little thing.
He just kind of assumed he would accept that offer.
Yeah, he assumed he would accept it. He did.
Well, I guess it's, to be fair, Raymond hasn't really set up that. He doesn't have the operation to invite him to yet. So maybe he's like thinking of later. But yeah, it's still, you're still right. I like how Dunk just continuously shows his tenderness towards animals. It's a recurring theme throughout the entire season. He makes the decision that he thinks is best for the horse, not for himself. And Sweetfoot is a fitting name for an orchard horse that, you know. And I love this little note here too, this little tidbit. What did Raymond say after Dunk gets released by Baelor, and he goes back to his horses in the rain. He's talking to his horse, and Raymond says, were you talking to your horses? That's mad. And now Raymond's talking to Sweetfoot. It's great. He's like, you know what, Dunk? I'm going to start talking to horses, too. You had the right idea. Gives them a green apple. All right, yeah.
I saw multiple people on social media ahead of this episode concerned for Sweetfoot and whether we would get resolution, closure for Sweetfoot, okay? I saw this many times, and I didn't expect to see this. And many people in the replies were like, no, in the book you don't see Sweetfoot again. Like everyone like downplayed it, you know? And I was like, oh, we do though. We do. And so I hope whoever those people were who posted on Threads or tweeted or wherever you posted, I hope you feel so happy right now that we did get Sweetfoot closure. It was very sweet.
Sweet footnote indeed. So Raymond continues to be one of perhaps the biggest exception, along with Baelor, that, yeah, while the nobility or something to, in general, as he said about Lionel, like run the opposite direction from, there are some exceptions. I mean, no doubt Raymond is the top of his list in terms of the living.
He's
and Beesbury and Harding, right?
Yeah.
He thinks about them, and he ponders his hand and his foot and whether their lives were not worth that. You know, he should have accepted it. And it's guilt. You know, this is Dunk. He feels responsible. He takes responsibility. That's it. That's the kind of guy he is.
I hope that when we see a montage of flashbacks of Dunk visiting Raymond and Rowan and little baby Dunk, that we see Sweetfoot in the orchard. I would like that too.
By the way, what did Rowan joke about with at the beginning of the first episode? Dondarrion wanted to turn the whole world red.
Yeah, she's gonna do it. She's
facilitating that.
I mean, it really makes, like, you know, Fossil Ways, the Reach, there's a lot of red-haired people there. It makes sense.
So so Dunk kind of, after he gives up Sweetfoot, they don't actually say goodbye. He just kind of goes back to thinking. He leans on the wall and is thinking, and then it kind of transitions to him making ready to leave.
It was a beautiful shot how it starts focused out on the tree above him while you're like, what is he doing? You know, you kind of wonder. I don't think probably no one guessed instantly, and so it gave everyone just like a beat to think about Dunk and what he was doing. I think I always like it when they let you wander and let your mind just wander and think about all the possibilities. And I think you yelled out, Aziz, "It's the penny." I think like there was like a moment where it clicked because he's like scratching around at like his sword,
yeah,
right?
I think so, yeah. It was exciting to realize.
Whittling at first, and they had shown Arlen whittling.
Yes, I thought he was whittling because we'd seen Egg whittling, and then we'd seen young Dunk whittle with Arlen, and so I was like, oh, I guess he's whittling because his mind's. I don't know. That's where my mind was going.
He's got a small knife, so seems like a good guess. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is a great scene that we talked about it already, but it's another example of several scenes in this episode that have no dialogue at all, and they really make use of the best parts of the visual medium, especially as compared to what books can't do. This is an entirely visual scene, and it continues with him packing his shield. He looks at the shield. It's a nice show-only touch. He kept the shield. And it's broken in a way that the art isn't damaged, so that's convenient. But hey, nice. I like that. The art isn't ruined, so he gets to keep that. He takes some time looking at it. He's reflecting on it, and then he puts it in his saddlebags. And shortly after, Egg shows up and says, the book line, "My Lord Father says I am to serve you." Dunk probably doesn't even consider the possibility that Egg is lying, even though he knows Egg is capable of that. He wants to believe. He also knows it's better for Egg, or at least strongly considers that. Did any of you ever consider this in the book? Because obviously we don't know about the ring until the next book, the boot. So I suspect maybe a few of you readers out there guessed that maybe that's what happened. On the other hand, it's just so quick. It's just like Maekar walks off silently, doesn't respond to the comment about bloody beef and sleeping in ditches. One paragraph later, Egg shows up. So it's like, it's hard to maybe have time to think about the possibility rather than taking it on face value. And then if you just go read The Sworn Sword, then that's it. You know that there's almost certainly that Maekar gave permission. But I can see how they were able to fit this different ending in. I don't think George intended it that way, but he might have left it open for himself. George might have left that open-ended so he could decide later, and then between writing this book and The Sworn Sword, he's like, okay, I'm going to go with that ring in the boot idea that I was toying with.
I think Ira Parker saw an opportunity and he seized it, and I think he seemed a little sheepish in the BTS, the making of, about the decision, like a little maybe concerned about the reaction, but his tone in it was that him and many of the writers just were tickled by it, and the fact that it was possible without flouting canon, right? Like, that is a valid interpretation. It is possible. It is. Regarding our poll, we ask in the poll in the show, did he steal Maekar's signet ring, right? I think even if he didn't steal it, there's easily ways for them to interact with Maekar and get this ring, including in this series of flashbacks or montages between, the start proper of season 2. So I think even he can get it. He can actually get it from his father without stealing it, and it can all fit together perfectly.
Yeah, like if he puts out the APB, which stands for, Egg on Points Bulletin, and they just, some castle they wander by, and the guy's like, hey, Maekar has been looking for you, then they have to, resolve that. So yeah, you're right. It's not hard. I really don't think there's a butterfly effect here of any significance.
So I'll go ahead and say the point that I was going to make earlier. It might get into some stuff we're going to talk about later, but it just fits right now with everyone we're talking about, that I think you can have both. I don't think this is or it doesn't have to necessarily be Egg is straight up lying and ran off without Maekar's approval. Maekar could have said something along the lines. I can imagine a million different scenarios that would all fall in the realm of, fine, you could go with that hedge knight. We'll summon him at the next tournament. Or I'll escort you over there tomorrow morning. Or make sure he comes to see me so I can give him the signet ring. Or,
but if that was the case, we wouldn't have said, where the fuck is Egg? He would have been like, he went to that hedge now. He would have known.
He would know. He would know where he went.
Should know. You know what I mean? Like he kind of does know. So I might.
Exactly. He might figure it out. Like literally, Egg and Dunk riding down the road. 2 minutes later, 2 Kingsguards might ride up next to him, say, "Hey, where you guys going? Egg, come back now. We got to do that." It could be that they're gone for 2 months and finally get discovered, or Egg admits to Dunk that he lied and they go back. There's a million scenarios, all of which make it easier for him to get in the signet ring. But at least one of them is that Maekar, and that was a question earlier, is that how did Egg even know that Dunk talked to him again? Maybe because Maekar told him. Maekar said, "Look, that night came back, and I think you convinced me."
Oh, he knew Sean.
But you can go with him.
He knows he came back. Remember, like they're hugging, and then Dunk. He said that the announcer says, or the guard says, "Sir Duncan is here to talk to you." So he knows he came back.
Yeah.
But anyway, I agree with you. I agree with your overall point, though. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so it is a joyous moment. It's got some callback to episode 1. He's just like in episode 1 when Dunk is telling Egg how difficult their life will be. Egg's face just gradually lights up more and more. He's like, "Oh, I like this. Like sleep in ditches. Yeah. Salt beef. Bring it on." Well, actually, he doesn't really like the salt beef that much, but he likes the idea in general, the living on the road. And so it makes him smile being told that, being given orders by Dunk. He's like, "Serve you, sir." And he smiles at that correction. Also, that's straight from the novel, word for word. I've never been so happy to repeat a phrase so many times throughout a group of several weeks. That's straight from the novel. Said it so many times. Yeah, these two love each other. I mean, in the show and in real life, between the behind the scenes content, these two aren't acting about how much they like each other. They have a legitimate real life bond. I mean, not hard to believe, right? They work together so much. They're both seemingly, cool people. So it's a good example, this final scene, of combining some pretty heavy emotions with great humor. Like they're joking about stuff, and we know that Egg is fibbing, if not outright lying, and that gives it a little additive humor. Now, personally, I do
know that in this moment, right?
Egg does.
No. Well, I'm saying
we know. No, you're right. We don't know that he's lied. You're right. We don't know that he's lied in this moment. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, you're right. So I do want to say that I do prefer the book ending. I don't like this change. I do think it's good. I think it's a good ending, but I just think it's like a 9 out of 10, whereas I think George's is a 10 out of 10. I prefer the weight of Maekar realizing Dunk is right.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the chat feel that there's more poignancy to Maekar's arc and to Maekar's character, and I agree with that, but I think this is funnier.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I want the funny, and I think there's room for Maekar to hit that character beat, and it gives a little bit more room, and we can see Maekar now again in season 2 for him to get that moment, right? So the jury's out for me. I feel like if Maekar gets there and he gets some level of acceptance with this, it doesn't undercut that as much to me. But if he never gets there and he's always like bristling, I don't know. I don't like it as much then. Yeah.
That's why I'm taking the line that I am. Or, 2 things you just mentioned, Ashaya. One is that Ira Parker seemed to be saying, it's funny, it's just a joke. Like they just had this neat idea. I think he said we had a thread of justification and ran with it. So combine that with the fact that I like the idea that the book, by the way, in the book, it's not clear. You don't know. And like you said, it happens pretty quick, so you don't have time to contemplate. You just sort of make this assumption because it's just a paragraph later. But it was the next day, which would have been enough time for, whatever kind of conversations or plans to happen. But that's why I am kind of choosing my headcanon is that Maekar did see that Dunk was right, did decide that Egg could go with him, but just hadn't hammered out the details yet, and Egg took off. And that's why Maekar's mad. He's like, wait, I didn't give him the signet. Wait, where are they going first? Wait, I got to make sure, there's just things he wanted to communicate to Dunk and or Egg. He had a plan, and Egg just ran off. And remember also in the book, Maekar knows where Dunk is. In the show, he doesn't. So that's another reason he's like, he can't necessarily go to where Dunk was because he doesn't know where Dunk was.
He doesn't know where the elm tree is. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
He still could track him down. There's only so many roads out of town. You know what I mean? Egg can only move so fast. They've got a bunch of guards. I think realistically, they just find him probably in a few hours.
I don't know about that because it's not clear when Maekar's leaving. This could be the next day.
True.
Yeah, this epilogue, it's not going to be like a week later because Maekar's like, I want to get out of here as soon as possible. We can't assume this is like just immediately after. But although it couldn't be that long after, because he would have discovered.
Nico was in a hurry to get out of there.
He was
Egg couldn't have been missing for that.
That's
long.
that's what I was going to say. He would have noticed sooner.
Yeah, I am real curious whether Egg will communicate with his father before or after Dorne. Whether that would happen before or after they actually get to Dorne. That's what I would hope to see in the first episode of season 2.
Make another poll. I'd say before Dorne. I think within a few weeks, one way or the other.
We'll have that be our poll for the wrap-up episode then. How about that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so this next little second to last scene, it's the last scene for Dunk and Egg. It starts with, where should we go? Anywhere in the second... 9 kingdoms. That was so funny. He's technically correct, the best kind of correct. Picture-perfect pedantry. And... then they actually show the title screen, A Night of the 9 Kingdoms. That just cherry on top, hilarious. And then it sets us up with this really poignant final scene with no dialogue, great music, and sadness.
Well, it's actually that you get the poignant scene before you get the punchline of the 9 Kingdoms thing. Like, it kind of like you have this sad, if you're Sean, you're sitting there bawling, and then you see 9 Kingdoms, or maybe he didn't even notice because he's crying so hard.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, I figured that might be the case. But yeah, it is A Night of the 9 Kingdoms.
It comes after the write-off. Okay, I got that wrong. Okay, cool.
But
that's
before
funny.
Makar, which is why, like, it's not a post-credit scene, it's a post-title card scene. You know, it's like a little bumper. It's an epilogue, right? But yeah, I thought the title card there was so effective because it was so like poignant and meaningful and sad. The moment with Arlen, and then you get this really funny visual gag. So
I very much approve as well of Egg's choice of Dorne. Also, I also just love how flummoxed Dunk was. I think I said that at the beginning though, so no need to repeat that. I was just too funny. I appreciate that Egg is the one to suggest Dorne instead of Dunk. It works really well because, one, Egg has already been shown that he's very good at anticipating Dunk's needs, wants, etc. This is a more insightful than most, but he caught Dunk's interest in Tanzell right away. Like, he clocked it immediately. So there's that. But also, Egg had a Dornish mother and a Dornish grandmother. So a Dane and a Martell, which are the extreme ends of Western and Eastern Dorne. So he, having curiosity about Dorne, makes a ton of sense. I mean, you don't need a reason to be curious about Dorne. It's interesting, but this really is quite fitting, I think.
I really liked the 9 Kingdoms thing because, like, yeah, you're right, it's technically correct, but it's technically incorrect too because there's also been way more than 9 kingdoms. You know what I mean? Like, over the years, there's been 100 kingdoms because history's long. There've been many different borders, and so yeah, there've been 9 kingdoms, and there's 9 main regions, but there's been many times that those kingdoms have been combined. So you could say many different numbers here. It'd be correct as we've gone through during many different episodes about the long history of Westeros. There's like the petty kingdoms period where there was like hundreds. There were so many kingdoms, right?
There used to be so many. It's true.
At one point, there was only 5 kings. In fact, like when Aegon the Conqueror came, I think there were only 5 because the Iron Islands had taken over the.
No, there were 7. That's why it's 7. That's why it's named 7 because there were 7 at the time.
Yeah, there were 7 at the time, but more regions than that, and they also kind of like splintered off some of them.
It became 9, Sean, because they added the Crown Lands and then split, they split the one that was combined. That's how it went from 7 to 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then they also added Dorne.
No, Aegon claimed Dorne without conquering it. He was just being arrogant.
Yeah, that's true.
or getting ahead of himself, either one. But he considered himself to rule Dorne, even though he clearly didn't.
one quick minor note, it doesn't really take away or change anything, but Dark was about to say Dorne. In the subtitles, it like cuts off the word Dorne.
Oh, really? So they were...
When Egg says 9 kingdoms, Dunk was about to say Dorne, and Egg says 9 kingdoms, and Dunk's like, what? And they go on a whole tangent, but he was going to say it on his own.
Good catch. Definitely didn't see that. So as they ride off into the sunset, it's like a proper Western. This has had a Western vibe all along, and the ending really reflects that even more. Like, it's not literally the sunset, but the sky's bright off to the right there. You can sort of see the sun. So Arlen is with them. We talked about that. It's really poignant, really, really great way to show it.
But also fantastical elements and the level of unreality that they have in the show, right? That they do this. That they have. There's no ghost of Arlen right there. We all know that.
Yeah.
So,
it's symbolic imagery.
So they play with that. They play with that in this show when they hadn't done that in the previous two shows at all, really, other than in Prophecy. Like in a Prophecy or a Dream.
Or Daemon's dreams and stuff.
Yeah, but that's again still with a prophecy or a dream. Yeah. It's not just your imagination. Those are two very different implementations of it. I worth mentioning, but I still think seeing something in a prophecy or a dream is very different than like imagining Arlen shrugging at you, right?
Yeah,
I agree. And so he's riding off with Arlen. Arlen is still his heritage, so to speak. Egg is his future. Dunk is, but Sir Arlen is his past. That's where he came from. That's the man he intends to live up to. But also Baelor. He has to, in his mind, he has to replace or make up for the loss of Baelor. Like, he's responsible for that. So it's his job to make Westeros a better place, because it's his fault that Baelor is no longer part of it. And Sir Arlen's upbringing prepares him for that. So it's a really nice combo there, kind of between the lines. All right, let's talk about the epilogue, the Targaryen epilogue. There's a few kind of tidbits you can see visually as Maekar is riding around, like looking. Where's Aegon? You can see Daeron drinking. He's just tilting back his wine skin or whatever. And I kind of think like he was waiting for Maekar to look away before he took a drink. I'm not sure about that, but it kind of gave that vibe.
You can also see Aerion looking very rough, and Valar riding. All the princes, all the men are riding up front.
Yeah, and Kiara's walking, that's kind of suggestive about their marriage being very political and not so warm, is she's walking way back there and he's riding out front. She just needs to
get her steps, Aziz.
Oh,
she's got to get her steps every day.
Her Fitbit, was telling her that she didn't have enough steps.
But she is near some other like silver and blonde-haired individuals. It's interesting. I would have expected these people to be in a carriage, and I think the only reason they're not in a carriage is for the visual impact for us, rather than hiding them all away. Show the people they cast. I don't know. I would assume they would not be walking.
That's probably true. Yeah. Yeah.
I also appreciate this moment. Another one I was going to mention, after Dunk puts the penny in a tree and he's jumping over that stone fence or whatever. I was even in my mind, I was ready if he just hurdles over this like it's nothing. But he didn't. He grimaced and groaned and slowly climbed over because he's still so beat up. And same thing here with Aerion. I'm glad he's not riding a horse. He got his inner thigh ripped open. How could he sit a saddle right now?
No way.
He's
Painful.
sitting in a carriage.
You're right.
I appreciate that continuity, if you will.
He looks so rough and grumpy. It's such a comical image to me. Just for that to be what they start with is him beat up.
Finn Bennett was talking about how he's like, from now on, when people do fan art of Aerion, it's going to be me. And then he goes, "Oh, what a thing to say!" It was like
it's a very Aerion type thing to say, unfortunately for him. But it's cute. I like it when the actors just genuinely appreciate having fans, having a fan base, and having such an engaged, artistic, creative fan base. It's a bummer when people are just kind of turned off by it and can't appreciate it, because it is unnerving, I'm sure. But there is a real joy, I think, to getting people tagging you and this beautiful. I've seen of Aerion specifically. I've seen some of the most beautiful, Renaissance type paintings. Beautiful, elaborate paintings of him, and that's lovely.
Yeah, and it's also just. Yeah, like you said, it's better to be like that than, I don't know, like a Stephen Delane who just didn't get it. He's like, I didn't enjoy my time on Game of Thrones. I didn't understand it, or my character is that's kind of, he wasn't being negative about it. He was making it about himself. He's like, I didn't get it. It's not like there's something wrong with it. He just, yeah. but it's still kind of negative, obviously. But whereas Finn Bennett's like, yeah, all of it. Give me give me everything. I'm in the fandom. I love my character. I love doing this. I love being a part of this. Yeah, it's really that energy is certainly easier to appreciate, I think. As you were saying before, Shea, or hinting at, this is, even if we prefer the book ending, you can see why they might have made an ending that's more about the main characters. So yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
I mean, Maekar's character arc isn't the most important character beat in this story for them, right? For them to stick that landing, and I think they still can. And it is just hysterical. We watched it with a lot of people many times, and they all really laughed a lot. I think it was like a crowd pleaser of a scene.
Two different people we watched it with who didn't know anything about it were like, "Oh, I was suspicious about that." They kind of saw it coming, so not saw it coming, but suspected it might be coming. So that tells you the picture of Egg that's painted by the show version of the character, who's they get him as when Maekar calls him an unruly boy in both book and show. It's like, yeah, this is the unruliness they're talking about. I think show audiences might be a little more keyed into that, because they're not thinking about Egg's whole life like we are trying to put it all together.
They're like, oh, this is that little rascal Egg. He's a mischievous boy, and he makes little lies of omission and all of that, right?
Yep. They're maybe a little more in touch with just the basic aspects of his character.
The other thing I think that this does for maybe more of the casual viewer, but also even for us who've read the books, is it adds this unknown that we wonder about, this like fire underneath them, right? Like they might be chased. You've brought it up multiple times, Sean, that like the Kingsguard could just chase them down. That's something that for people to speculate about going to season 2, and for them then to anticipate that it might start with some kind of element of like they are being hunted down. It's maybe an extreme word, but that is what's gonna happen. Like Maekar is gonna send people after them.
Probably, yeah. And maybe like you said, maybe he sent those 2 Kingsguard there. Maybe they both ran off in different directions to look, and they just didn't choose the right direction. Because there's a lot of ways to go. It's the reach.
Ira Parker did say a couple things, like it's noteworthy. We talked a bit early on about the idea of like the POV we would get, and whether it would be all Dunk or all non-nobles. And they kind of broke the rule with this by giving us a POV that was of nobles that didn't even include Dunk or whatever else.
That's why it's an epilogue. It's not part of the story proper.
He felt like he was justifying, oh, this is post. He wanted that Night of the Nine Kingdoms to be like a dividing moment of the real show and what they're doing afterwards. And but he did clarify in there that he had promised George that he wouldn't change story. They would like embellish on the story that's there, you know what I mean? But he wouldn't change the story. And so I think this, however significant this or featured or whatever this is, I like it because they can do it without changing the story. If we do see Kingsguard hunt Egg and Dunk down, whether it's 2 hours later or 2 months later, they hunt him down. Maybe he gets chastised. They give him the signet, and then they go on to Dorne and wherever else. You know what I mean? They can do it all.
Yeah, it's not hard to
adding to
imagine.
Egg being mischievous and not changing plot.
Yeah, I agree totally. All right, let's have some final thoughts. Do you have any? First, Stannis Baratheon 3356 says Lionel sends a super chat. Says Lionel, I've come not to praise Baelor.
We were just talking about you, Stannis.
Yeah, we were. So, Sean and Ashea, do you have any final thoughts? We actually will be able to give more final thoughts during our wrap up, so we don't have to get it all out here. But if you have some things you're inspired to say now, this is a good time for it.
I will just say that I'm a huge comedy fan. I really am. It's more my genre than drama. I like comedies more. I watch more comedies. I rewatch more comedies, for unsurprisingly, right? So for me personally, this hits my interests perfectly. It hits. I love A Song of Ice and Fire, my favorite fandom. I love comedy, my favorite type of story, I suppose I could say, and fantasy as well. So a fantasy comedy is just perfect. And I think anyone who's listened to us for a long time has known that I've always wanted this to be animated. They proved me wrong. I do think Dexter Soul Ansel leapt off the page as Egg. I think he's perfect. I'm eager to see how the arc of the show goes as he ages up, and eager and slightly nervous.
Egger.
But I think he will still capture the essence of the character, even if he's older than he would have been, right? Dunk, I still wish he was younger because I really felt his youth in the book, and it was part of what and even more endeared me to him was that he was like a child raising a child. And I don't know. I feel Peter Claffey captures that vulnerability and that cultish kind of growing up quality. So overall, the things I was worried about or leery of, I was mostly proven wrong. I think I just really, really like the show. I think it is my favorite of the 3 shows. But we'll see how season 2 goes. But my favorite of the 3 books is the second one, The Sworn Sword. So I have a good feeling about that one too.
Sean.
I think that similar to Shea, the show surprised me at how good it was. That said, I even had high expectations. I was with the Shea as far as wanting it to be animated. I thought a lot of the problems the show would have, that making it animated would solve those. But a combination of how so well they cast it, and how, even as we discussed, Dunk being aged up a little isn't bad at all. And they've got the budget for it. Being animated makes it a cheaper budget, but I'm happy if HBO or Warner Brothers, whoever it is finding the right budget, and ostensibly probably finds a bigger audience too. But being animated probably would have given a more niche audience. So there are a few things about it that I was worried about, if you will, that they maybe didn't do as perfect as I would want, but no one does as perfect as I want, so I can't complain much. And they did better than I thought they would. As I mentioned, the lingering injuries after the joust, the relatively realistic fight itself. There's a couple things in there that bother me a little bit, whereas usually it's like flipped around. Usually a fight scene like that, there would be 10% I liked and 90% I'm rolling in my eyes. Yeah, and this was 90% I liked and only 10% rolling my eyes at. So I do like dramas more. But I do also like comedies, just kind of thinking along the same lines as Shea. And I don't know, if I would call this a comedy. I think that this is a adventure drama with some comedy in it. And I'm fine with that, because I think most of my favorite shows are ostensibly my very top shows are usually dramas, but most of my favorite shows, like my top 10 shows, probably 8 of them are dramas. But of my top 100 shows, 80 of them are ostensibly comedies that end up having some serious parts. And that's kind of what this was. You know what I mean? It was light and had a lot of comedic moments, but really what it's about was some serious stuff.
Dramedies are all the rage.
Dramedies are all the rage. Right? That's right.
Well, I guess where will they enter it? It's a half-hour show, which is often pushes it towards the comedy category.
True, yeah, for award season.
Yeah, where will they push it for the Emmys?
Doing that,
and my other question, will Dexter Soul Ansel get the Emmy nom? Because I really hope he does. I really want this show to get recognized.
Yeah.
It would be awesome.
So yeah,
I got to say, I'm dubious. I think it might get a couple nominations. But
it's placed pretty well, Sean.
Field,
Like the timing of the year of when it aired is pretty decent, because the Emmy noms end May 31st, so it's relatively
the critical reaction has been really strong too. So
that's true, yeah.
I think people might want to.
The past Game of Thrones shows did pretty well at the awards,
and I think maybe Peter doesn't actually get the nom, but I think maybe they'll want to shout out a very good young actor in Dexter. Mm-hmm. I don't know. We'll see. I guess. June, we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see. So nothing is perfect, but this was better quality than we dared hope for, I think, as Sean and Shea both hinted at or said straightforwardly. And it's definitely a huge success by any objective measure. I'm thankful for that and for the ripple effect it will have on the fandom. Some of that we're already seeing. We already talked about how people that never watched a Game of Thrones show at all are liking this one. More people are going to read The Hedge Knight now, and then The Sworn Sword and The Mystery Knight, and that might even bring them into A Song of Ice and Fire, and a few people that are into A Song of Ice and Fire that haven't read the novellas will do that. They will at least many of them will get it, so to speak, and they'll become one of us. So when season 2 hits, by the time that happens, there'll be quite a few more people that have caught up, so to speak. They'll be more educated on the world and George's world building and all the stories, and they'll maybe have read things 2 or 3 times instead of just once, and then you'll be one of us. And perhaps the best possible inspiration would be George. The great success of this, one of the things that made it hard for us to temper our expectations was that George said it was really good. And that, like, as he says, I'm very reasonable about these things. So, yeah, like, the fact that George liked it so much was like, it's really hard to think this is going to be bad if George liked it.
And I think this is good for George's writing.
That's what I meant,
yeah. It makes him feel good, makes him feel inspired. I do wonder how much he's going to be unable to resist working on more Dunk and Egg stuff despite his claims otherwise. And I think he should be free to do that, even if he's not publishing it. If it helps you to write something, to take like a break and write something that you enjoy more or that's easier or that's more simple or whatever you want to say, that's good for your writing, and it's hurting your writing if you like put these rules on yourself that stop you. And he got a lot of writing done when he worked on Fire and Blood because it got the juices flowing, And he probably didn't get it probably wasn't helping that when he was having the problems with House of the Dragon, on the arguing and the negativity and all that. That's not going to make your writing better. It's not going to translate into more inspiration. So yeah, this is the opposite effect. So hopefully that has a lot of positivity. So yeah, our poll. What did you get there, Shea? What's our result? Where did I pasted it too early. Where did I put it?
I don't see it.
I pasted it in the document and don't see it. Let me just scroll up and repaste it. Okay. In the show, did Egg steal Maekar's signet ring? Yes, 64%. No, 36%. And at the beginning, it was a lot more yes favored, and it slowly became more even. Still slightly favored to yes, he stole it. But definitely, I think the strongest argument for him not stealing it is, does Maekar wear this ring all the time? And does Maekar just not notice that he's not wearing his ring? That's why I don't think he stole it. Personally.
Yeah, it is a hard thing to steal. It's something he would be wearing a lot of time. It wouldn't be quite as hard to steal as like a wedding band, but yeah, it's not the kind of thing you take off very much. And not a lot of time had passed. It's like he's like waiting for him to go to sleep and stealing it off of his bedside table, but that could have been what happened.
2 other, I think, solid arguments against him stealing it, or one that I think Maekar just gives it to him, whether he already did or ends up doing it. 1. 2, maybe more importantly, I don't think Egg's a thief. He might be mischievous, maybe even a little dishonest. I don't think he's a thief.
Okay. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. So that's it for this episode, y'all. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being with us all season long, but we're going to keep on going, of course. Join us next week for the wrap-up episode, and make sure to check out our other related episodes. We have done full reviews of the Hedge Knight, Sworn Sword, the Mystery Knight, 2 episodes on Baelor Breakspear, like 9 episodes on the Blackfire Rebellions, maybe an episode on Serwyn of the Mirror Shield. We have a fun episode called The Future of Dunk and Egg. There you go. Palma Shelby said, for 420 says, what if he stole Baelor's?
That's really funny to me. I actually think that's hilarious. So if he's not a thief, do you think he's a grave robber?
Hey, Dunk, the ashes after the fact.
Hey, what did that guy say? It's not stealing. He's not stealing from dead nobles, right? That's not stealing. That was already referenced in the show.
Yeah, that's what Egg will say when Dunk's like, where did you get this? From Baelor's body. And then you'll say that.
Imagine he'd be horrified. Be like, what? Egg, you did what?
You had the same bafflement that he had at 9 Kingdoms.
Yeah. All right, folks. On behalf of Sean and Ashaya, I'm Aziz. Thanks for hanging out with us and enjoying the season. We got a lot more to come. And thanks to Brand the Builder for his excellent intro that a lot of people are watching and commenting on and saying it's great. We agree. Captures the vibe of the show so well. What's that?
I do see one comment from someone that said, from Bourbon Wolfswood, in the last scene, Maekar did not have the ring on. When we see his hands, seems like a good clue whether he wears it. Does he wear? Yeah, does he have it? Does he always wear it? I will have to do some research and come back to you in the wrap up.
We will have to do some zoom and enhance to look for that ring. The Maekar's signet ring mystery is upon us, my friends. So you all know, now that the show is over, you have a little extra time. So, Valar, reread us.